by the numbers. It is number 123 plus 1, for we must not speak the upsetting number that seems to trigger a fan base that will definitely be watching today.
I wonder how far they go with that, though. Like, do they say, like, oh, and the number of corona cases up to 23,000 plus 1,000? Like, how far do they go with that, though?
I reckon they go pretty far, man. I reckon they go pretty far. Look, we've got an action-packed episode today. There's loads of stuff to talk about. So before we get into it, I'll just say a few things. General housekeeping. So obviously, shout out to the sponsors. First up, .com. You know them, you love them. Apparently, checked. And we can't promote on YouTube, but if we say beep with 9es.com, that's apparently all right, even though it redirects to their website. I don't fucking know what's going on.
Doesn't make any sense, really, yeah.
No, well, that's just YouTube sponsorship, isn't it, in a nutshell? Anyway, they're a great sponsor. They've stuck with us through thick and thin. We've had them for 2 years now. 2 years they've been on board with us. And it's been quiet over in CS and quiet in esports. For a while, there's not really been a lot of events going on due to the obvious pandemic issue and people trying to transition their LAN events as they were planned into online events. But we got some big ones around the corner, including ESL Cologne, which I'll be doing predictions for. So stay tuned to my Twitter. But basically, if you're thinking about placing a bet on a few of these events that are coming around, do it. It's a safe, ethical environment to do it in. They give you your payouts. Sign up with .com/RLS, and that'll let them know that you support this show, this channel. But a new sponsor as well has joined us, coming to the fray. NordVPN. As I said on my stream yesterday, I was having a talk with Johnny Nord, and he said he doesn't do podcasts really, or just chatting channels on Twitch. He said, but you know what, Richard, I like the cut of your jib. You're going to be the first one. So they're sponsoring us for a month. And if we get X amount of signups and do good numbers, I think it was just something like 300 signups, they'll sign on for a bit longer. So they've had great support from you guys so far, but this is obviously by the numbers. So if you go to nordvpn.com/RLS, sign up, you get 70% off. And trust me, the way things are on the internet these days, you want a fucking VPN, because if some fucking lunatic isn't trying to DDoS you, it's the government stopping you going to fucking porn sites. World's a mess. It's a fucking mess. The internet drove everyone mad. Right, where to even start? I was going to do it chronologically, but I don't know if you've got to be in your bonnet about certain topics and you want to move certain issues.
What would the first topic be otherwise? What was
so it was the Bubzkji move.
Yeah, we can do that if you want.
Yeah, all right then, good. That'll just help the show flow a little bit easier for me, because I'm not jumping around and then we forget stuff. So yeah, obviously Astralis decided what they were going to do is build a 10-man roster, Duncan, like they said all along. And they went out.
They keep letting fucking players go then, isn't
it? No, yeah, that's the thing. That's what I was going to say. So we heard for basically Mad Lions had been kind of, there was this weird situation. I still don't even know why Bubzkji was even benched in the first place, considering he's one of the best players on the roster. One of the players who really stood out when Mad Lions had that jump. Clearly, it's a personality thing. Clearly, there's been some issues there. I doubt we won't find out this year what the issues are, but I know enough about Counter-Strike as well to know that down the road someone's going to spill the beans and it'll be some petty argument, much like it was when the Fnatic team bust up, in 2015 or 2016, whenever it was. Anyway, so Bubzkji was in talks with Mad Lions. I got wind of it. I was being told, yeah, he's going, but, who gives a fuck? I've been busy with real stuff, not roster moves. And then it came out, and then Bubzkji signed. But if you want to get closer to 10, you want to keep the 5 you've got and add another one, right? Like, you want to keep the 6 you got, the 7 you got, and add another one. Well, no, for some reason, as soon as they signed Bubzkji, they released JUGi. Now, don't get me wrong, wicked move, because JUGi's fucking terrible and has no future at top-level Counter-Strike the way he's playing at the moment, and really needs to go back to the drawing board and think about what he's doing. But it makes a mockery of everything Astralis have said previously to this. It makes a complete...
By the way, what the players have said. Well done, players. You're now implicated. So when you come out doing tweets telling people not to judge the players, they're in a difficult situation, they're being integrated into the team. No, they're not. They're just standing in until they can buy someone. You're a liar. You're a barefaced liar who just tells your own fans, the people you claim made you and support you and love you and allow you to have a career, you just lie to those people. And for what? Was it necessary? Did you gain anything by lying? You gained fucking nothing. That's the stupidest part about this. Listen, let the corporate suits lie to the media and investors all you want. That's a different realm, and that can, by the way, actually have an impact that could make you money. Just lying to your own fans. What the fuck is that? You don't even gain anything from that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the only thing I can say, kind of in defense of the players, is that maybe it's been intimated that if you didn't, go along with the lies, maybe there's going to be some form of penalty. Maybe they're going to, maybe they'll consider it a breach of conduct. I mean, obviously they have like a contract that does expand into behavioural realms, and
Device didn't comment on that, by the way, when that was brought up as well. In that, when Sponge, I think it was either Sponge or Professor said on that HLTV podcast, and of course in your contract it has a thing we heard that's like that. He just sat silent and said nothing, didn't reply yes or no to that. So, by the way, if you haven't noticed the trend with the straws, that means it's true. It's obvious, isn't it? Like,
and listen, but the other thing I'll add is, I mean, while Device did sort of say parts of my report weren't true, he didn't do what some of the players have done, which is literally carry water for the org. Discredit me completely, and then privately later on say like, listen, mate, it's all in the game. I mean, I know it's all in the game. I've said it many times. It was like, when Dazed and Steel went out on Summit stream and said I was a creepy old dude who just wanted clout and attention. I'm like, and I was lying. It's like, I've known you guys for fucking years. What are you saying that for? But it's all in the game. They were fighting for their lives, so I get it. It's acceptable under those situations. It's not ideal. But when you're staring into the abyss and you'll do anything to not fall into the hole, I'll let you off. I'll totally forgive you for it. Freiburg with NIP did the same thing. Came out and then just immediately privately told me, saying, look, mate, they've got me dangling on a string for all this money. I said, go get that cheddar. Say about me whatever you have to say to get paid. Make it look like you're the good little soldier. And then...
I've got to push back on this one. I'm with you on those two examples. Like Steel and Dazed, no one knew. There was no precedent. I mean, what ended up happening, that could have been the decision from day one from Valve. It could have been you banned forever. So that is a massive context. NIP, the money they'd already earned and even won from prize money, they hadn't been paid yet. In that scenario, I get it. Freiburg's angle is, listen, I'm just going to say whatever I have to do to get the money I'm owed already. And then after that, we'll figure something out. Like, obviously, they ousted that guy after that. Here's my problem. The people who actually had the power in Astralis were always the players. If those players say, I'm leaving, it's done. There is no Astralis. There is no business. Those businessmen have no weapons to use in their war. So I actually think what disappoints me the most, believe it or not, about Astralis and all that stuff that's gone on is the actions of the players, because they have either been silent or complicit. And the worst thing about that is they were the ones who could have changed the culture. They could have said, listen, you know what? Even though we could leave right now as the reigning 3-time major champions in a row and the fucking best team in the world at the end of last year, we'll stay. We're willing to commit to Astralis. But we need either like a change in policy, or we need to adjust the way that we address things, or maybe we even need a management change. That's all we ask. And if we do that, we'll sign again. If not, we'll go and join Team Liquid next year. Like that move, mate. Just as one of the topics we're going to discuss later, they had a lot. I think they maybe didn't understand it, but they had a lot of power there, especially if they'd done it as a group, by the way. Dude, if they'd come as 5 players, they could have stopped this shit years ago. For some reason, I mean, I'd imagine part of it is the contracts have gone up and up and up over the years. The business deals have come in over the years. Everyone's in first-class fucking business flights now. Like, these things, they eat away at your integrity. The more comfortable they make you, the harder it gets to say, shall I put that at risk? Maybe the other team I go to doesn't give you all the business class. There's a million reasons you can go against it.
But it's not just that, right? I mean, the key thing in esports is the prevailing sentiment is better the devil you know, right? Because like they know Astralis are fucking working them, like Nicola Naom's riding around on a horse, like fucking hope y'all practicing, like fucking like keeping an eye on the players, but they do pay them a lot of money. And they do have a really good training facility, and they do look after them, and to a certain degree. And if you leave to another org who says, "Listen, we'll pay you more, we'll do anything to land you," you are stepping into the unknown again. There's so many bullshit artists and lying orgs in this space, where it's like you almost know that, like, okay, this isn't optimal. But it's okay. It's all right. It's acceptable. It's tolerable. It's comfortable. But it's not optimal. It's not as good as what we should have it. But then you roll the dice again every time you move organizations. I'm sure. Look, I mean, word on the street behind the scenes. I don't mind just saying this much, was that those players had basically it been intimated them, probably through the CSPP agency, if we think about it rationally, but it had been intimated to the players that, like, listen, there's orgs out there that would love to fucking sign you, that would love to sign you and go into some of these franchise leagues. And they've got top dollar and they'll spend it on you. You can get a big money move. But I think the hassle of the fact that their contracts started like 18 months to go, the idea about whether everyone was as keen to go as some of the other parties, I think we can hazard a guess at who's keen and who isn't. The idea about whether or not would Zonic want to come. They love that guy, rightly so. He's an integral part of the success, a wonderful dude, a good human being, even though he too has fallen into the trap of acting like a mouthpiece for the Astralis organization and their ownership. So yeah, once you step into that unknown again. So listen, I'm kind of, I understand what you're saying from a purely moral perspective, assessing only integrity as a criteria. Yes, they've really let themselves down by sort of stepping into the world of telling lies on behalf of an organization. I think when you do that as a player, you lose a bit of license to ever criticize orgs when they lie about you, or you know what I mean, because you've done that kind of dirty work before for the same people who might do it in future. But equally, I'll say, players, are even the best CS players, are on a very limited clock to make money. And if you want to make that money, you need to make it now. If you want to have life-changing money and be able to buy a house and be set for life and, have kids in your 30s and just relax, you've got to that there does come certain things that you're going to have to tolerate. And right now, the checks turn up every month. And, to a certain degree, I can understand it from a pragmatic perspective.
To bring it back, though, yeah, obviously that whole 10-man roster thing and everyone can be an IGL and a fucking All-Pro, yeah, that was obviously nonsense from day one. And the saddest thing is, I've said this in the past because we've been through this fucking rodeo a million times. Here's the worst thing about being a journalist in esports, right? When you come out, it's like that, that fucking Gandhi quote where it's like, at first they ignore you, then they make fun of you, then they bite you, and then you win or something, Here's the bad part about our business. There's no you win at the end. What happens is, initially, they say you're lying and that it's all just nonsense, or that you've skewed it, or that you're biased against them, or that you hate them, or that you're just doing it for some other reason. And at the end, when you're right and you should win, and you're like, right, wait a minute, what do I get now? When's the win? Yeah, there isn't one. Everyone just pretends it never happened, and they pretend they always knew that. Like, what will happen is, here's my prediction. On Reddit, when people discuss this topic, it's weird that JUGi left, didn't it? I thought they were doing 10-man roster. Everyone will either say, oh, no, that was just PR talk that we all knew from day one, the same people who said we were lying, or they will just ignore it completely. It just never happened. Memory hold completely, which just makes it so whack, because it's like there's no consequence for doing that stuff, and there's no payoff for fucking revealing it. It's like it's just a fucking rigged game, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. And like the reality is that I feel this is in line with almost every other business. Like we exist in a weird overlap between entertainment and sports, right? And I think we get the best of both worlds, and we definitely get the worst of both worlds. And part of that downside is the just bubbling, babbling brook of bullshit that just comes with it. And unfortunately, Astralis are some of the biggest peddlers in that particular medium, and they aren't going to be held accountable. I mean, they've constantly framed the need for a 10-man roster as something to give their players relief. So, and they've said it multiple times, and they've cast aspersions on you and me for doubting the narrative they've put out there. And yet, every time there's a new chapter, it's like they don't just write the new chapter. They make sure they write it in a way that completely contradicts every other preceding chapter, and then go, yeah, but look what we said today. And it's like, but it doesn't work like that. That's not how it operates. That's not how.
I've got a weird question for you might like, because it's sort of like it's in the hypothetical domain, but it's one that's very much in your wheelhouse. It's what I just thought of now. I want to ask you, actually. Basically, because we're talking about there are no consequences, right? Well, we all know that stupid fucking talking point, which doesn't hold up at all if you think about it. Like, there is no such thing as cancel culture. That's just the consequences of your actions. When I astroturf an entire campaign against you with a product I never bought, like, I've put in the square brackets there to give you obviously the real version, right? But when people say that, well, we all know you definitely can be cancelled on all levels. In fact, here's what I'm going to ask you. Individuals can literally be cancelled up to the level of like the Prince of fucking England in theory, right?
Yeah.
Here's the question. individuals can be cancelled. As far as I can tell, companies can't. Dude, the crazy thing is this, right? Because you like what the company gives you, the product, it's like League of Legends. Dude, the idea anyone's taking moral stands in League of Legends is a fucking joke. You should have done that about 10 years ago, and we all, including me, should never have worked at Riot Games, should never have given their game any attention. We only did harm by actually allowing those fucks to get more rich and bigger in the world. But the reason we didn't is because guess what? It was comfortable work to do. We enjoyed the game. We liked playing it. It was a big game. It had massive scene. So as long as those things, if we're being real, what we're all in an unspoken manner saying is the scale tips the way of the game, so they win. They can do literally. Riot Games can literally work with genocidal tyrants. They can work with people who hate gay people and would murder them if given the chance. They can work with people who are blatant racists, sexists, people who peddle all sorts of grift in social society where they pose as one thing and then cause the problem they claim to solve. They can do all these things, and at the end, we're all still going to do the same equation. Like playing Shyvana jungle though, don't I? Oh, well, in we go again. Or TSM's playing Cloud9 though, aren't they? I might have a cheeky look. So you watch. So I've noticed, dude, companies cannot be cancelled, especially not in esports. They can do anything as far as I can tell. If you're big enough and you have a good product, you can just get away with anything, mate.
I mean, I think there's a degree of truth to it, but it's not explicitly a rule. So the inverse of this is you'll see a lot of people say go woke, go broke, which is one of the biggest myths and lies. That,
I've never seen it even go broke, but yeah.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like a lot of cultural commentators, push this and say go woke, go broke is a real thing. And I get morons on my YouTube channel like leave comments like because I've said go woke, go broke isn't real. And they go, well, how do you explain this? And they show me like Metacritic ratings for The Last of Us 2, to which the only reply is it was the number, like it was one of the top selling games. Yeah. It had gone gold before it came out of pre-orders. It made them a shit ton of money. No one went broke, especially when you consider how they mistreated their staff and weren't paying the contractors. So they definitely didn't go broke. They double dipped. And you'll hear this a lot, go woke, go broke. I remember people saying about Nike when they brought Colin Kaepernick in and all the morons went out and bought Nike shoes to set them on fire in protest to show how they'd never buy Nike shoes. And initially, Nike shares went down. The stock price went down. But then it shot up and they announced record profits after that because, the reason the companies go woke to begin with is they've done the work already. They know what sells. They know what they've talked to the focus groups. They know what demographic are interested in social justice issues and how they can package that. And as I've said many, many times, corporations and companies don't have morals. They just understand that morality right now in this particular moment in time, especially, is one of the most successful marketing tools of all time, right? It's so easy to manipulate people into buying your product if you make them think they themselves are doing something virtuous by extension. Like, put it this way, if I have a choice of buying shoes at $60 and I'm told like, $1 will go to some social justice charity and they have a slick advertising campaign and I see celebrities that I look up to and admire talking about activist issues in their commercials, or I can buy shoes of similar quality for $40 without any of that additional package. I just saved $20 for myself. You'll be amazed how many people will choose the $60 shoes. That's the strength of the marketing, the branding, by telling you for that additional $20 spend, you change the world, you do something good. And they get to, go home and feel good about themselves. It's a very profound, important message. So, the idea that any of these corporations go broke and are cancelable, it's very rare. It's very rare. You have to do something so absolutely heinous. I mean, look what happened with Ubisoft, the games developer, for example. Multiple executives caught embroiled in sexual assault scandals, rape allegations, just all sorts of horrible behavior. And then the response to that was, we'll hold an investigation. The head of HR stood down because they were like, well, we don't know if we'll be able to do a proper investigation or really get to the bottom of it with that current person in charge. And now it's all just been hushed up and washed up, and Ubisoft is still selling games. So if you can have a company riddled with sexual predators at the managerial level, yeah, there's a lot of problems. I think the biggest part is that, what do you do? None of us have the lack of consumerist necessity or the discipline that it requires to boycott these companies. Can you imagine your world if you couldn't use Amazon?
Sure, exactly.
Right? And so what you do is you make a little concession with yourself. And that concession is, listen, to live my life in the way I am accustomed to and the way I want, I am willing to, maybe use the website for this, but I'll vocally speak out about this. I'm guilty of this. I know enough about myself to know that, like a lot of decadent Western pigs, I've fallen into the trap of being a vocally outspoken person, say, against Amazon for workers' rights and how terrible Amazon treat their workers, their staff, people committing suicide, breaking down at their desks, people pissing themselves because they can't get a toilet break in those massive warehouses where they walk something like 30 miles a day, bringing boxes from the back to the front. And they don't, and they get paid horrific per hour for it, and that's where Amazon make the profits. And Amazon then say, listen, I'm Jeff Bezos, the world's wealthiest man, but we can't afford medical benefits for our staff. And I spoke up on it. I spoke up on it on Amazon Day, specifically, and I repeated some stories from people who worked at Amazon and collated them all. Where do you think I ordered all this shit from? Because it's convenient. It's too hard to go anywhere else. They have a functional monopoly. So I can pay more and wait longer to set the principle. Well, humans won't do that. So when you extrapolate that necessity, it's not a necessity. When you extrapolate that reality, rather, I should say, yeah, let's apply it to esports. Fucking hell, we're a fickle bunch at the best of times, aren't we? How many times have we seen terrible sponsors? How many times have we seen somebody say or do something that should be unacceptable, but then gone, meh, they feel above the threshold of cancelability. They feel like they're, never going to get got. So what's the point? How many times have we all pledged that, I'll never watch another Riot Games broadcast? And then, like you say, slowly but surely you trickle back. And they know that. And they're banking on that. And that's why they get away with it every time. So it's not a case that they're uncancelable. It's just that really we're not all that invested in cancelling them. Because think about the void it leaves if we succeed. And I think at the back of our minds, we're all cognizant of that fact. Far easier to cancel an individual than it is something that holistically enhances our lives, probably in multiple areas. When you cancel an individual, very often, you don't even consume any of their content or interact with them directly in any meaningful way. They have next to no impact on your life whatsoever. So it's just a way of making yourself feel good and, honestly, entertaining yourself. Blood sports for the internet generation.
Because one thing that ties into that, by the way, obviously this will all lead into the later discussion, but it applies to Astralis as well, because obviously, like, as I say, even if us or some of Reddit understand they're full of shit, it doesn't get out to the wider audience. Like, some people know, but the fan who's a fan of Astralis, he's a fan of Astralis because of the device, not because he gives a fuck what Nickel and Ion does. He's just going to keep watching to watch the device, isn't he? So, like, my issue in that regard is there's also this effect I've noticed happening that is very relevant right now, which is if you are someone who literally puts your job, your reputation on the line to make a moral stand, do you get greeted with, like, when the fucking Roman generals would come back to Rome and there would be flower petals and women? And no, what happens is you get a million reply guys go, hypocrite, hypocrite. You didn't say nothing about China. What about the USA before? Didn't the USA drive all North American? So basically, the logic is, right, instead of being celebrated, what you actually get is someone who himself apparently is very knowledgeable about all the atrocities in history, but his stance goes like this: I'm not a hypocrite because I just support all evil companies. By you not supporting one, you are worse than me morally. I win. Like, that's what a fucked community we have. Like, it's so unbelievable, isn't it? Because that's what with the LEC talent, dude. It was people just 24/7, like, hypocrite, piece of shit. It's like, listen, I thought if they hadn't have actually striked, I would have thought they were hypocritical. But I'm not going to just fucking say that directly to them. Why would I?
Well, so yeah, just so you know, I've got a report coming out about that in the next day or two. It might even be as early as tomorrow, depending on whether we get comment back from Riot or not. But first of all, yeah, it was a full strike what the Riot staff did about the NEOM sponsorship. The broadcast talent, and it was decided upon very quickly. Sources have told me it wasn't just on-air talent either. Many of the production were outraged. Many of the staff over at LEC that do sort of broadcast rules were outraged as well. And ultimately what happened was I got a source to confirm that, in the mea culpa that the LEC put out, they said, we didn't think this through and we let ourselves down, our standards, all of that usual bullshit. The classic sadist apology.
In our 1 millionth mistake, we again... Yeah. I come to you again once more, asking for your complicity and silence on this topic.
Yeah. So anyway, that doesn't ring true because the deal was done a couple of weeks ago, and just prior to the Berlin Pride festival, yes. Berlin Pride Week, and they deliberately, because they have their offices in Berlin, held back the announcement of the NEOM sponsorship. That's NEOM working alongside the Saudi Arabian monarchy, because they knew the optics would be terrible. So you cannot simultaneously say, well, we weren't aware of how it would be received, when your strategy about how to roll it out specifically delayed it because of how it would be received. So that's going to be out in the next few days. And then on top of that, the other interesting part was the management team, of which some people have said there's 8 managers that basically brokered this deal and didn't tell anyone about it. Like, it was literally, they didn't mention it to anyone else in the company, not the on-air talent, not the production. So imagine, like when I was at E-League, I was kept in the loop about all of the sponsors because they knew I was going to have to do the reads. The only time they blindsided me with a case opening site, which was like a last-minute addition to get a value add, I told them, don't ever fucking do that to me again. Because when that shit comes tumbling out my mouth, people clip it and say, I'm a hypocrite, right? And I won't fuck up a show, but believe me, I'll fuck up a meeting room after the show. Yeah. So,
same thing with Flashpoint. Like, they also come to me when they're even just in the preliminary stages of a deal, because obviously they know we want people like Monty and Thorin on the broadcast. So if they're going to strike and leave, it's a fucking waste of time, and it? We'll get a different company to sponsor you.
Yeah. So anyway, the other part was, right, like, and again, remember, they've put an apology out saying, we're sorry, we didn't get it, but we get it now. Well, this is complete garbage, because when the meeting happened, those 8 people were still absolutely adamant they'd done nothing wrong and couldn't understand why the broadcast talent were willing to strike. And the HQ in North America, they came in to act as mediators, or so they thought, and their stance was, yeah, our management's done nothing wrong. Like, come on, guys, what's going on?
People don't get it. This isn't one bad actor. That is the fucking company policy, is to do shit like this. That's why I hate the angle, like you're saying, Richard, that they always make it sound like, oh, no point crying over spilled milk. It was just an accident. It's like, no, it was a premeditated move based on your actual principles in business and life, which you routinely and consistently display unless you get significant pushback. Because the only thing that ever stops a Riot Games is massive pushback in public. That's it.
Of course. Yeah. So what I would also just point out as well is, and this isn't to disparage the talent. I'm immensely proud of the talent, all of the talent that took the strike action. It doesn't happen enough in our space, in our scene, that talent takes a stand like that, and very surprised. Some of the people, some of the names I saw doing it, and not surprised with some of the other guys. Like I say, Quick Shot's just a legit dude, and I've got a lot of time for Frostgurn as well. I think they're both great people, so whatever. But the reality is that when it came to the NEOM project over in CS, what you're talking about with being sponsored by the Blast, what you're talking about, the whataboutism actually did come into play, and that's one of the reasons why we haven't seen talent speak out about it. So when I saw the NEOM sponsorship get rolled out, I was aghast, I was appalled, because it's not just about their rights on gay issues, where if you don't know, there's people still being imprisoned for being gay because they're a theocracy, and it's the Wahhabist Islam. It's the very strict interpretation of the Quran, so there's not a lot of room for moderation in Saudi Arabia. You'll have heard the horror stories about, there was one where a British guy got locked up in a Saudi Arabian prison, and the government had to intervene because he accidentally brushed against the Saudi man's hand, and he thought he was trying to hold his hand in public. There's horror stories. They're so homophobic it beggars belief. And then on top of that, you've got the human rights violations, of which there are many. Journalists and writers and anybody that sort of wants to break away from Orthodox Islam. You know, people getting arrested, being called political dissidents, harassed by the police. Their issue on trans rights. There was something that happened, I think, a year or two ago, where 2 Pakistani transgender people were detained by Saudi police and beaten to death in questioning, something that the Saudi Arabian monarchy themselves have denied, but they can't really account for the cause of death. There are a lot of issues with Saudi Arabia that we just shouldn't, you know, like I say, I get why maybe an oil-dependent superpower might have to, you know, which are evil in different ways, might have to have a relationship with them. I don't understand why an esports organization.
Yes, that's the part I'm totally with. Like, what's funny is, listen, you can make all the cases you want from a moral position, from an idealized position. I always go with that one, Richard, because listen, I know most people just have their own self-interest. All I say is that is like, and this actually will tie in later when we get to Blast, is, mate, unless that money's literally what's stopping you having to close the fucking doors, you can get it elsewhere. Come on. You can go get a fucking Quaker Oats sponsorship and it might be half as much money, but they're only making oats. They're not killing people, have they? Like, you know, do you need it? Basically, it's a necessity argument. Because like I say, it's that's why actually for the Blast angle, it might even be different later as we discuss. But Riot Games especially, like, come on, Tencent, you don't fucking need that money.
No, they definitely don't. I mean, they're owned wholly by a Chinese mega corporation, a company that I think is now wealthier than Google. There's absolutely no need whatsoever to take blood money of that nature. But as I said, you know, that report will be out in a few days, and it'll just kind of it'll kind of lay it bare. But yeah, getting on to the Blast, 'cause, you know, the Blast is a different kettle of fish. As I said, it needs to be stated plainly, and I'll say it on this show because I said it in a separate video, but only 15,000 people have watched that video so far. So, you know, I'll say it on this show because this generally tends to do better numbers, and that is that this is not a sponsorship deal. Be under no illusion. This is a strategic partnership. They say specifically in the announcement that they are excited by the NEOM project and that they are going to Saudi Arabia to help develop esports in, you know, on the land, in the facility, so it can become the esports hub for the region. Now, the region itself is being taken away from a formerly nomadic Transjordanian tribe called the Huatat tribe. And you're probably talking about 20,000, 30,000 people who have been told they must give up the land despite having nowhere else to go. They're not being given any form of compensation. They've said they will compensate them. They just haven't said when, where, how much, and they don't want to go. It's their home. It's their home. And this specific tribe, the Huatat tribe, they've been involved in protecting Saudi borders going right the way back. When you look at Saudi recruitment, because of the nature of living a hard nomadic life, a lot of them enrolled in the Saudi Arabian military. So they've actually been part of the security forces that are now murdering them. And I say murdering them. 9 senior tribal members have been arrested for resisting the order to move, and one tribal elder was killed. And he even said in his last video he posted to YouTube, they are going to come to my house, come to my home. They're going to ask me to say that I support the move. And when I will tell them that I will not move for any amount of money, they will kill me, plant a gun next to me and say I was a terrorist. And lo and behold, that is exactly what happened. Now, as I've said before, when you putting NEOM as just a logo on a show and showing a propaganda video is one thing. Saying you are actively willing to be complicit in building facilities and developing facilities on that stolen land is outrageous. And it's a type of complicity that should not be tolerated. So if you don't understand why it's a bigger deal, what the Blast is doing compared to what Riot is doing, all of that there should explain it to you in an easy to understand manner. And I hope you don't think I'm being hyperbolic or hysterical. You know, I support human rights. I don't like human rights being violated by tyrannical regimes. And unfortunately, what happens is when you try and speak up about one issue, yes, we get into the whataboutism. It's happened to me many times. Richard, where was your love of human rights when you did a show with the US Air Force as a sponsor? I mean, I don't know what more I can do except say that the Saudi Arabian monarchy killing homosexuals and stealing land from tribes people now in the present day, yes, I get it. I didn't like the invasion of Iraq. I fully spoke out about it, but the US Army itself has done good things. humanitarian works. It's not like we were sponsored by the specific operation to invade Iraq. That then is, but when you are being sponsored by NEOM, that's an equivalent what you are doing.
Yes.
You are being sponsored by the specific theft of the land, which is run and operated and driven by the Saudi Arabian monarchy that enforce the clerical theocratic rule that in their mind justifies them killing gays and other people. So
I actually thought, by the way, in your video, you didn't make this explicit, but like it was basically what you were discussing. One thing I thought that you made is a very good example. I would give it just as an example so that people can differentiate between all these murky scenarios, because people aren't wrong. Obviously, if you go deep enough, yes, the United States does all sorts of terrible things. Britain did many terrible things, blah, blah, blah. Everyone, and eventually, by the way, it's actually a lesson that the woke motherfuckers might want to learn. Everyone was involved with empire, slavery, and oppression. That's called being a human until about you fucking popped out your mum's pussy. Have you ever looked into history? Everyone. You know the ones who weren't? They just lost. They just didn't get their chance to do it. If you'd have given them the guns or the fucking wheel or the hot chariot, they'd have been the cunts doing that. There was no noble savage of Rousseau. That's a fucking myth. The idea there's just these people who just stayed in the chill thing. That's just some fucking Disney movie or some shit. Like half of a Disney movie before the cool part. So what I would say is this. You made a good distinction. That it's one thing if they just sponsor, like for example, forget NEOM, say some company like Amazon's a good example, or Nike, who we pointed out have done human rights offences or done very shady business practices. Say they just happen to sponsor Riot Games, and then I just work for a Riot Games broadcast, and maybe we don't even mention it on the broadcast, maybe it's a separate deal. That is totally different from what I thought was a good line in the sand that you sort of elucidated. It's very different if you're on the broadcast where you're then going to have to say, and of course presented by NEOM, because at that point in time, you are inextricably tied to NEOM. Even if you didn't make that deal, you are complicit in the most literal sense. So there's another thing people don't realize is like, here's the thing. I'm obviously not working with Blast anyway. I've intimated it pretty heavily on the last few episodes. If you haven't figured that out by now, you're just too fucking thick, and I don't actually feel like explaining it to you. But I obviously weren't going to be working with any more Blast events anyway. But I might have done some like side content. There's what's different. If the content I did wasn't even to do with their events, that's different. Now, I will say, if I worked their events, now I would have a very different question to ask myself, because now I would be part of the NEOM thing. I would even essentially be being paid from the NEOM money. It's going somewhere, isn't it? So, like, I know at the moment, a lot of talent out there, one of the reasons they don't want to step forwards also is thinking like, well, fucking hell, right, I know about this one issue, but do I have to, like, open the Pandora's box and unravel a million issues? Do I have to find out why every... No, you don't. Like, the good thing about the NEOM deal, and this is why I think this was a good line in the sand, is... the NEOM deal isn't even smart enough to put in the abstraction that the Western companies do. That's the difference. I've always said this. The genius in the West, I think there's even a comment that people made about like Soviet Union or whatever. They were like, if people do fucked up things under like dictatorships, you just do them to people. You can just be direct and blunt. You can even tell them, by the way, haha, I'm fucking you all up and put you in camps now. If you're in the West, you do the same thing, but you do it with so many layers of abstraction. No one can follow the paper chain, and nobody knows that the company at the bottom is connected to the evil company at the top. And if you have that, I can at least understand that. I can accept that, as you said before, it's too late for us on that one. That horse has bolted from the stable. There's no point trying to shut the stable door. My point is, let's get the horses that are inside the fucking stable that haven't gone yet, that we can actually stop. Because like, you get the point, like, we're all going to have to make concessions. That is just living in modern society. That's that's the price of being in Babylon, as it was. Like, you're in a mega city, that's it. But if you want to actually, like, take a stand against something, these are the cases. Because as we say, this isn't like with the Saudi Arabian company and then the contract. No, this is literally like a crown prince just saying, I'm going to kill these people and I want you to give you money from that project. Yeah. There's not even there's no distance there. Dudes.
No. It's and like you said, they are saying as well, well, that's fantastic. As soon as you've stolen that land successfully, we'll come out there on a big junket and enjoy, the delicious prawn ring from Iceland that the Saudis put on a great spread, the Saudis, and we'll fucking come and we'll build a land center and a competitive arena on top of that stolen land and just try not to think about the blood in the sand, And it's insane. Now, I'll also add as well another little detail, because I've been digging into this story. Funnily enough, I was already digging into another story involving the Blast just before this, because they just can't stop fucking up. And apparently what they did was, because their strategy literally is to kill it with silence. I confirmed that earlier today when an esports Observer reporter had asked them for comment on a story that he wrote, and a guy called James B. Fudge, which I thought it was a troll account at
fake,
first.
doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, but apparently it's his real name. Well, anyway, he tweeted out, Blast Premier is not commenting about its NEOM deal. A rep from the company told me this morning, at this stage, we don't have anything to add. So they're not going to talk. And then when you get into the additional detail, right, that they all went on holiday on the day they announced the NEOM deal.
Fuck off. That's the same thing with Riot. But if people aren't getting it, that's the Riot Games approach again. They've cynically sat down and said, well, this is obviously a fucking massive human rights violation we're getting involved with now that's basically like immoral, and some people might take light with that. So what should we do? How should we arrange it so we can still do it all, but get the minimum backlash? That's why you're totally right. Like, Riot's actions just show that they knew exactly what the response was, because they were so cynical. I heard the same thing as I tweeted. Like, I'd also heard that it wasn't that this was just a deal. It was like, the deal must be done by tonight. And they were like, oh, fuck, yeah, okay. They knew it, and even were like, maybe wait till Berlin Pride's over, though. Yeah. And there's actually an angle I want to tie into this, by the way, is there's also another thing to be said for someone who just says, I'm apolitical, or you know what, maybe even they go deeper than that. You know what, I actually only care about money. I'm just here in business to make money, and I'll do business with anyone. And you know what? I mean, they could even make some sort of moral gray area. Like, every dollar that's done from pimping and murder and drugs, it all gets distributed around the world. Eventually, you will hold in your hand a dollar that was part of a crack deal and pimping someone out. Like, technically, we're all part of the system. So they'll try and rationalize it, right? I, at least in some fucked up way, so basically the nickel and IOMs of the world, I can at least sort of like vaguely fuck with that. It's like, right, he's just a businessman, a bit of a fucked up, cynical businessman, and all he cares about is money. Don't you dare do these kinds of deals that should only be done by the cynical businessman who only cares about money, and then turn around 1 minute later, effectively, and go, you know what, Thorin, I'd like to just preach for a second there. Can everyone just shut up a second? Like, here's why it's so important that you know about my morals and my principles, and that I'm changing the world for the better. And I'm going to do that. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Hui. Yeah, $10 million, kill them all. Yeah. You can't do that. You can't do that. That is one set of behavior that cannot be allowed to.
Let me show you.
Here's the part I don't get about this, Richard. People don't get it. It's not that they're hypocrites. It's worse than that. That means that they don't believe what they're saying. So they're making a mockery of the concept of being against racial oppression, of being against sexuality, of being abused. They're literally taking that and showing you. They're putting it in your face and saying, see that, you idiot? When I put this little flag up, you believe that I believe what you do. Haha, I don't. I just do whatever I want. I'm using you, little dickhead. That's actually more offensive than the guy who just says, you know what, I don't even fucking care about social issues. I'm just doing business. That guy's at least honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's worse than that, and this ties in with what you're saying. It's the cynical way that they have just roared every issue. So I tweeted it out 2 months ago, less than, when the Black Lives Matter movement first started really getting attention after the death of George Floyd. There were a lot of companies that came out, and in my opinion, cynically use that horrible situation to basically promote their brands and create products as well. Like, I think Jersey Mike's made a bacon, lettuce, and marto sandwich, BLM, instead of BLT.
Jesus Christ.
No joke. I mean, brands went fucking hog wild. Like, anything they could do to look like, first of all, they're a virtuous company. How can a corporation that probably doesn't give benefits to all of its black employees, right? How can they even talk about how they care about black lives? How can a company that sources, minerals from mine shafts that collapse on 9-year-old children in Africa say they care about black lives? You don't. You care about black American consumers' lives, and only in so much that it can be leveraged to make you profit. That is the honest message. If we were just being, if these companies were just being honest, you don't care. But obviously what esports does, because esports is kind of like downstream from corporate culture, and all these brands want to make out that they're being slick. The Blast created something called the Blast for Good campaign, right? And I'll read it to you, and Sam can bring it up on screen. Blast for Good, creating a level playing field in esports for any person, regardless of gender, background, or the color of your skin. This last week, we've been watching, listening, and learning. We know that somehow we need to try and help where we can. Moving forward, we want to use our platform to try and create a level playing field in esports for any person, regardless of race, gender, or background. Now, an interesting point there, Duncan. What are the odds that because they had the discussions around the NEOM deal when they were in Bahrain, just a hop, skip, and jump for the Saudis? What are the odds that they said background instead of sexuality, so they didn't jeopardize the sponsorship deal?
It would be in line with it, yeah. I mean, put it this way, background is actually the odd word out there. Normally that would be like race, gender, or sex, or if, as you say, like there's many ways you could do it. Yeah, background's a very weird word to put there. And obviously, again, that is totally ringing hollow. Yeah. In fact, the irony is this.
It gets worse.
If you just reread that paragraph, but you just imagine they're talking about NEOM, you just think these people are monsters. Yeah. It's the same as like comment I said about Riot, where Riot had, again, this is how stupid they are with their timing. It was only about a week earlier they'd kicked iwdominate, one of the big streamers in League of Legends, out of that partner program. Now, here's the genius of this, Richard. It is like life wants truth to get out somehow. Because here's the beautiful synchronicity life gave us. They didn't even call that like the streamer program. They called it the motherfucking partner program. This is perfect. This is chef's kiss to the universe for this. So what they were saying, essentially, that I said in a tweet, a lot of people missed this. I thought it was straight fire. They're saying when they kick iwdominate out, we wouldn't allow or be associated with a partner who did or said things like iwdominate. Yep. By the way, we're announcing our new partner, NEOM. Now, put those two together. That means they explicitly, by their own logic, they explicitly condone the behavior of the NEOM people. They've done that themselves. I didn't even need, they didn't even need to do that again. They just gave you that out of nowhere. And they've done the same shit with this, basically.
Yeah, well, it goes on. Blast for Good will actively support and work with organizations who are driving change.
Richard, technically they are driving change.
They're changing alive natives into dead natives. Great people. So we work with organizations who are driving change, so we together can create a more diverse esports community. We'll be providing more details of our Blast for Good initiatives in coming weeks, but do check these resources in the meantime. And then they literally copy pasted all the links that every other corporation linked to. You know, this charity, that charity, here's the Black Lives Matter official website, etc. Now, here's where it's ridiculous. They never followed up, but it's how you know they're just cynical pieces of shit. They've never announced what Blast for Good is. There's never been any details of the initiative or anything like that.
So far-ranging as well. Remember, this is why these people are such scumfox, Richard. So they're without any plan, they're basically promising, we will save the whole world and allow any human who's ever lived to be part of esports. Like, what a ridiculous premise. Like, that would literally be like tens of billions of dollars to do that program, by the way. Think about it. Because then after, they always over-egg the pudding, you notice. Like, they don't just say, hey, would be a good idea, by the way. Here's how you do it if you actually wanted to do this problem. You'd go, we're starting a campaign called Blast for Good in Denmark. And in Denmark, we're going to put forward a bunch of programs where you'll work with Astralis and North and Heroic. And what you'll do is you'll learn basic skills of the industry and you'll learn how to do that. And you know what? We'll contribute some of the money for that, and so will our sponsors. They make it where anyone of any race, gender, or background in the world, effectively, just alive today. So there's millions, by the way, of like Africans and so who don't even have the internet who will be very interested to learn this, actually, that apparently Blast is working to allow them to become esports pros. Like, it's a fucking, like, even the premise is offensive because it's such an insanely wide, like, far-reaching concept that you're obviously never going to do, even if you did do something.
Yeah. And so, as I said, they've not explained. They've done no follow-up for that. It was literally just a post to get some positive attention for that day with no intent to follow through. And as you rightly point out, when you then compare that to the actions of, and now knowing that the NEOM deal was in the pipeline and they've said that, you know what, does the, when you, so you're committed to having a more diverse landscape. Can me and my boyfriend go to this tournament in Saudi Arabia you're going to run? Can you give me a back rub between games? No, I'll get killed, won't I? I'll probably be taken out in the streets and stoned to death, arrested, or at the very best deported. In fact, you would probably send me an email telling me not to show any form of affection or anything like that when I got the when you sent out the behavioral stuff. Yes. You know, just like ESL did for that fucking event in Brazil, where they were like, no, Brazil, it's great, it's awesome, and then they sent emails to the players, don't leave your hotel room though, lads, because you know. right? So that's what you tell me, and it would be a fucking outrage, you know. So just imagine it. You know, you've got. What about the broadcast talent? You know, what about the gay broadcast talent? Are they safe? Can they come? Will you just not hire them? What about the women? Are they gonna have to wear fucking hijabs and burqas and all that on a broadcast? Are they? I guess they will.
Nobody brought this up. And by the way, I'm definitely not doing this to call this guy like. It's not about that. It's about the fact that he makes this even more insanely tasteless. Dude, I think it was only a month ago, wasn't it, that Scrawny posted that picture that's like the pansexual flag or something and said like his girlfriend supported him or something.
Yep.
He is your main commentator.
Yeah.
By that logic, you've already had your event in Bahrain. I'm assuming, like, by the way, spoiler for everyone, Riot and Blast and the rest of them, this doesn't stop here. The first paycheck is the money to condone the regime. The next paycheck is the bigger one with another zero on the end to have your finals there, to have worlds in fucking Saudi Arabia or Qatar or something. So Blast have already done it with the global finals. They've shown they'll do it. So as a result, how the fuck could that guy go to that country and think this is cool? This is who I'm working with, is it?
Well, he's in the chat now. He just said, yeah, this whole fucking sucks. You know, and it does. It does.
I'm not saying I'm not calling him up.
No.
Blast, how could you do that, you know?
No, but that's what I mean. It's like, think about it. Like, you know, again, it was like with Riot. You work with Froskerin. Like, what are you actually saying when you sign a deal like this? You know, because are you saying that, like, this key component of somebody's identity means so little to you, and therefore, by extension, you think it means so little to them, that it's just some sort of, like, you know, you can just trade it away for money. It's just a betting chip. It's not really that big a deal. And the ongoing tension it generates. I forgot to finish the sentence I was fucking saying earlier because such a mad topic. No. But it was I was talking about the hypocrisy. Well, don't forget Riot Games. Much like when Blast went to Bahrain, Riot Games held an event in Saudi Arabia and nobody got up in arms about it. Not really. It was called the Nexus, and it was 6 tournaments over 3 days in Riyadh, which is the capital of Saudi. And they, you know, and nobody really spoke up about it. I know people as well who took money and gone and done coaching with the Saudi teams and stuff. It's like, this seemed to be the tipping point. But there's definitely grounds to call some people hypocrites before, because it is a tough area to get into. And that'll bring me to my next point. I saw a lot of people on social media, Reddit especially, saying, why haven't the talent spoke up about it? And I'll just, again, because I'm a real motherfucker, right? It's totally safe for me to say I won't work with a Blast, which I did on a stream. I said, I'll never work with a Blast if they ask me now. I'm getting back because I've been out of events anyway. But if they asked, I'd turn them down, you know, the same way I turned down all them Chinese events. But it's nothing. It's safe. And I'll also be honest in the sense that I've seen some other people come out and say, well, I won't work a Blast event. And it's safe for them as well because they probably aren't working Blast events. Now, nothing wrong with it, guys. I love the hustle and all that. And I think what you've done is admirable. But, like, yeah, honestly, if the talent are going to say anything, it does need to come from the talent you associate in your mind with Blast broadcasts.
You're have skin in the game, basically. But, yeah, like, listen, in theory, those people do. But we're talking about, like, you've got skin in the game now. As I say, you can force
exactly.
If you work with them today.
I mean, the reality is, right, like, if the people on the broadcast now did strike, these people that have come out and said they also won't work with a Blast are the next people that would go to.
True.
So,
it would be the scabs.
Yeah. So in Blast's mind, that's what they think. So now Blast already know that they have no options, so they've got to make it sweet.
Yeah, you've got the supply line.
Sure. Yeah, exactly right. So, like I said, I respect it. But let me also just tell you that when this was announced, I went out to all of the talent that were at the Blast. Well, you know, the key members to have a chin wag and just put the feelers out. And there was some, and it was about a 50-50 split. There was some who were like, yeah, fuck it. We just won't work Blast events. This is outrageous. NEOM's a disgrace. And yeah, I don't want my name anywhere near that shit. And then the other 50% said, yeah, all of the above, but we're also aware that we are letting ourselves into we turn our lives into a nightmare. Because unfortunately, it's not enough for the average moron that you took a stand on one issue. The expectation now will be not only must you take a stand on every issue after it, but but retroactively, the standards you took today must be applied to every decision you made in the past, which of course is immutable. You can't change it. So they said, like, we can say nothing, you know, or back channel and say we don't like it privately, But if we commit to it publicly, we're just going to get wrecked for the rest of our lives about why did you take a stand against the Saudi Arabian event and not the Chinese event? And then you go, okay, so we do Saudi Arabia and China. And then people go, well, what about Russia? You want to do events?
And by the way, eventually it will just come to the USA and they'll demand you just stop going to the USA as well.
Yep. And then it's like, well, do you support US foreign policy? Yep. And then you go, well, okay, right. So now I'm not doing events in China. So I'm not doing any event tied to Saudi. I'm not doing an event tied to Russia. I'm not doing an event tied to the US. So now we've got Europe after me. Well, I don't know if you know about Germany in the 1930s. It's like, fucking hell, like, how mad does it get? And that's what they're worried about. And that's why they haven't spoke up. My stance is, you know, that it shouldn't matter. It should be safe to speak out on this issue because it's so egregiously bad. But I also do respect the idea that you can't. And then on top, there are people like, and I don't want to, you know, I hope he's okay with me saying this, because obviously I know he's watching now. But, you know, there are people like Scrawny, and this is like their principle. You know, think about how hard Scrawny's worked from where he started to where he is now.
He's just on the cusp of getting everything, yeah.
Yeah, and now what? So if he takes a stand, the employer he works with the most, has the most cachet with, and is essentially like, yeah, like what happens to him? And is it fair? Is it fair that it happens to him? It's not really. So
that's why there's a topic we can get into, by the way. Why the fuck? That's why I asked if companies can be cancelled, Richard.
Yeah.
In a sane world, none of the talent would have to say anything. The fucking fans would cancel them. The fans of the consumer, or even the other investors would say, we're not going to be involved in this. No, the pressure doesn't come. So because everyone in esports is negligent, this is why actually I said these people, by the way, enjoy. You're getting a sort of 1 week version of what it's like to be an esports journalist where I'm not allowed to talk about this guy's corruption because I didn't talk about this guy that was totally unrelated and I didn't even know about. So you're getting a little taste of our life. But one thing I would say is this. This is also why I do think there is a difference between the CSGO example and the League of Legends example. And thus enters the small segment in which I'll probably get shouted at by people who don't listen to what I say, but another day in my fucking life. So here's the problem I have is those Riot casters were very quick to tell you that they put their jobs on the line once they'd already secured their jobs again. I have a problem with that.
I don't know. Is that the chronology?
Yes. They only came out publicly and said they wouldn't work with them after it had been decided, and then they said so.
Okay.
So there's my problem with that, because here's the problem I have with that, Richard. That also betrays cynicism. That betrays a cynicism that you don't want to paint yourself into a corner. You don't want to say publicly, like I have many times, including this year, I will not work with company X for reason Y until situation Z is resolved. Now, when you do that, by the way, you are going to be held to that. You cannot back out. So if someone had come out on their own and done a tweet and said, I won't work with Riot again until this sponsor's ended, which, by the way, at the time seemed totally implausible. Nobody thought this was going away. They thought maybe Riot spins it or downplays it or gives a charity. No one thought they're cancelling the whole deal. So if you say that, essentially you're saying like what I said this year where I said I won't work with ESL. You're just saying basically that's it with me and ESL because they've done this. And actually that doesn't even have that much impact. The problem with that is, in that scenario, if they don't cancel the deal, you have to live up to that. You have to then not show up. You have to quit your job. And by the way, if you're an LEC caster, that is your whole full-time job. You aren't on a fucking open circuit. That's the end of the world for you. In fact, because it's Riot, that might just be it in League of Legends for you. So I will admit the stakes are way bigger in League of Legends than CSGO. But my point here is there's also one other factor. And I'm not saying this is cynical. I actually don't even think that was cynical. I think they just didn't think it through. But I'll just say, don't then make yourself a hero and a martyr afterwards. You didn't do it quite the right way. I've done this, by the way. I've put my fucking skin in the game many times publicly because that's actually how you force change. Because what you're saying to Riot then is not, can we get Thorin back on side? You're saying, right, well, Thorin's out if the deal doesn't get cancelled. That's the most firm position you can take. And the reason I bring this up, right, as to why it's relevant, Richard, is because the CSGO talent in general doesn't spam political messages. They don't put hashtags. They don't put images on their timeline every time it's politically expedient to. League of Legends all do. All of the LEC talent wore those shirts. All of the LEC talents tweeted about Pride Day, etc. So you know what? The idea that later they're either A, not going to take a stand, or if they do, only in secret, and once they know they're secure, that's not quite the same as being a hero. It's part of the way there. You're about 3/4 of the way to being a hero. I love the initiative as well. I even like the idea you did actually get the end result. That's cool. But you didn't do it 100% by the book. I'm just saying that. So when people then turn on CSGO, it is apples and oranges. It's not 100% one-to-one on that one, in my opinion.
Yeah, I get it. Just before we move on, let's get back to Bubzkji. Remember that?
Yeah.
Remember Bubzkji? I didn't even ask you. With the Astralis lineup now being Device, Dupree, Magisk, Esatag, and Bubzkji, do you actually think they can now sort of get back to competing at a level commensurate to where we associate Astralis being? Because obviously they've been outside of the top 10 with the JUGi Esatag move. Bubzkji, very different prospect, a lot more firepower. Astralis, I think they've got a good pickup, honestly. I think Bubzkji could legitimately, like whatever happens with this roster, I however it's put back together or who leaves, who doesn't. I mean, for me, I think Bubzkji was at a legitimate skill level that he could have slotted into the Astralis team anyway.
That's my problem with this move. Is even this move doesn't make sense, Richard. This is a move you make because, as you're saying that, I would echo that. Bubzkji is a player who deserves to be in Astralis. Like, he's the guy where this is exactly the moment when you do recruit a player. You don't go reach into the fucking graveyard and pull out JUGi or take Snappy who's just available or Esatag who never made it. Bubzkji's like, he's on that trajectory where he's like this and he's just about to hit the peak where if Astralis don't recruit him, you end up with that story of like, well, why didn't MIBR get closer? And well, they're already better than MIBR at that point in time and they had a better deal, so they didn't need to. They've almost hit the threshold where maybe he wouldn't even sign. Maybe he'd just stay in his other team and they'd get as good as Astralis or better. So my problem with this is, how can I accept the premise that he's part of a rotation? If he joins Astralis, I'm cool with that, by the way. If they said, oh, by the way, for reasons that are his own personal reasons, Dupree has decided to retire. So we've brought in another aggressive player, Bubzkji, who's probably the future of Danish counterstrike. In the same way as if Device retired, I'd expect you'd pick up Ehco or someone. These are totally legit pickups. But the problem is they're legit pickups to be a starter. This is why I said the whole 10-man angle never made any sense. I get why Esatag and Snappy and JUGi would be a bench player and just waste out time while someone's counting down their contract hours or something. I get why they'd do that. What I don't get is, why would Bubzkji agree not to play all the games? If I'm Bubzkji, I'm a starter. So if I'm a starter, well, then who isn't a starter? Is Esatag the sixth man now? Or is one of those players who took his time off it? Or are they going to leave the company? That's the problem. To me, it implies more, like this asks more questions than it answers.
Yeah.
Because I'm with you. If you just said, right, you have to pick 5 players, you can have 3 or 4 of the original Astralis 5, and then the 5th one's Bubzkji, and let's make a team, I'm on board. I think that sounds brilliant. That sounds like a different way to get back to number 1. But that's my point. It would be a different way. Like, if I make Bubzkji an Astralis player, I'm not going to play the old Astralis style. I'm going to play Bubzkji style CS. I'm going to play like a young man. I'm going to play a fucking skill. I'm going to go a bit more raw. I'm not going to be the chess masters of the game. But that's the problem. I still think we haven't resolved this fact that, like, let's just be real. They just wanted the original 5. And when the original 5 weren't available, they started fucking around and bringing in players who were just desperate. And now they've done a move, which almost certainly implies they're not sticking with the original 5. Or if they do, one of the original 5 is going to become a bench player. Because I don't buy the angle that Bubzkji's like a rotation player or a 6. I just don't think it just, none of that adds up to me. And I have no inside info on that, by the way. It's just speculation.
He's right, we'll put it this way. He was signed on a 2-year contract as well. Which is,
for his age, that might be his prime window right there. So
yeah, that's what I mean.
No,
it would be utter insane for a 22-year-old who has just reached the peak of his game and his stock is at an all-time high to sign a 2-year contract with Astralis. Like a 1-year contract, yeah, maybe, you know, if Glaive and Zitniks are still chilling for a bit, you know, and then one of them comes back and then they drop Esatag and keep you in. Yeah, maybe you get like 9 months into the year before they say, fuck it, we'll bring back the original 5 or whatever, you know, however it's going to work. Like, but 2 years, if you are essentially a bench player, you've just put yourself into fucking purgatory. Like all these other dickheads that sign contracts in this business for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. You know, it makes no sense. So I think he's a starter. I think he's a legit Astralis pickup. And I think you're going to see one, if not both, of Zipniks and Glaive leave. You know, they might come back and play a little bit. There's a lot of negotiations that need to be done behind the scenes, clearly, because of the length of their contracts. And probably when they sign them, they can never conceive things that get so bad. But, you know,
to be fair, the whole lockdown scenario has just changed the landscape of even the transfer.
Yeah,
but you know what? I'll tell you right now, guys, there's NA orgs that have the money and have the contract ready. And as soon as those Astralis players want to come, you'll see them in fucking Flashpoint or in some team in America or something. But the point is, you can't even go to America right now. So your options are even more limited. Like, the sad thing for the Astralis players is their actual bargaining power is just limited by factors that are out of their control. Otherwise, the world would have been their oyster, like I said before, when they could have definitely stood up against some of this shit earlier, you know.
Yeah, for sure. So that's the Astralis move. The other big move that happened, Nitro leaving Liquid. And I had Davey on the stream the day that was sort of announced. He'd obviously played with Nitro and his eventual replacement, Grim. I guess we just never got to see that, like, 5 that were the #1 team in the world, the 5 that did the Grand Slam. After that break, we just never got to see them get back to being that team. And I think that's really sad. And I was genuinely surprised. Eventually something was going to give, a move was going to come. But I was very surprised it was Nitro that was deemed to be kind of surplus to requirements. And from, the way it was reported and the way it was done, it wasn't him saying, guys, I'll leave. Like, the rest of the guys said, look, it's going to have to be you. Now, I'll add, I don't think he was a particularly consistent player. He was a hit and miss AWPer, which I don't think you can necessarily do that. But the way he reinvented himself to be an IGL and sort of be the linchpin of the team is admirable. And what I didn't realize was that had already been took away from him. Stewie had took over as IGL.
Yeah, they were a bit coy with that. In fact, actually, I did a video on this that I released just before this, about a couple of hours before this show. And one of the things I point out in that is, all of a sudden, because it was only, I think, maybe like a month or a month and a half ago that I think it was on like HLTV's podcast. Someone mentioned that Stewie was now the in-game leader. I think it was maybe Sponge or something found out. And that was where it actually got out, as far as I know. I don't think it was actually ever like publicly stated in the news or anything. Because again, unfortunately, teams don't tend to do that. I've actually made this point in the past. I wish there was a way that teams like had to report who the IGL is for every tournament, and then Liquipedia or whatever could keep track of it, so you can know when things change. Because there's times where we look like dickheads because there's no way we can know, and we're talking actually the new guys, the IGL. But anyway, the point I was going to make is this: I told you when I did Blast at the beginning of the year when it was offline, and I could listen to the comms of Team Liquid, that Team Liquid's comms were not only terrible, but the weirdest thing is that Nitro didn't talk much, and the most vocal person was Stewie 2K. So that actually makes me start to suspect that they were either trialing that back then, or it was just the natural way that Liquid operates, and that they just eventually decided to make it a real thing. Like, right, you actually are the IGL now, dude, even though you were basically doing it before. Because, yeah, that's the part that I find a bit suspicious is this reminds me a little bit of the fucking Golden move, mate. It's like, if Nitro's not a good enough IGL, okay, go get another IGL. Now, what we'll do is we'll move him to a role that we're not going to tell the public what it is, but then when he fails at that, we're just going to kick him. It's like, I'm not sure I'm a fan of that aspect, but whatever. The point I would make overall anyway would be that, first of all, props to Team Liquid for actually being willing to bite the bullet on that, because I actually do think, Cloud9 is the contrast in League of Legends and CSGO in this sense. They hold on to people for too long. They keep the guy where he is sentimental value, or he was the face of your team, or he played for us for fact. The idea they just cut the guy who played the longest in their team, and I won't say he's the face of the team because they've got a leash and all the rest of them, but he's the most associated player. He's the player that you always think of when you think of Team Liquid. You think of Nitro, of course. So the idea you would cut him, where, as you were alluding to, listen, I had the same sense. If the whole lockdown had only lasted a month, I was begging EG and TL, don't make a roster move. You've got to at least have another LAN. Come on, we've got to have a couple of LAN and then know for sure. Like, first of all, no one knows when this lockdown's ending. It could be 6 more months. So in that kind of a world, and especially as you say, this isn't even like they only just went bad just before the fucking lockdown and online era began. They already had more than enough rope after that major. Like, they had loads of chances, not even just to win tournaments, to play Astralis even and try and beat them again. So I actually do think they fulfilled their qualifications for that, like, adage I often say that I don't think you should ever change a winning roster until you know it can't win anymore. I think they basically were about at that point. So I actually do agree something had to change in the team, in my opinion. We've pointed out in the past, I would have liked it to be a coach or whatever, but a player's a good move as well. And of all the players, it's the most obvious one to remove.
Well, so when me and Davey were talking about it, the first thing was, like, we were kind of divided on it, and I can see the argument both ways that, I think, go to a LAN first and just see. Because the teams you're losing to, like, online CS don't mean shit. It's wacky as fuck.
Oh, sure.
Especially right now when there's just bugs in the game that just make it so you can make smokes disappear, and then Valve fix it, and now we've got not only a smoke bug but also now a wall hack that you can just put in the game. If you go see, I think it was Sparkles did the YouTube video on that. So how the fuck can you judge an online era? Because, you know, I'm not saying pros cheat, but I am saying I know plenty of pros who'll be like, well, it's just a little exploit, innit? It's not VAC. It's not like I downloaded something. So, you know, and it's just online, and they're probably doing it to us, you know, and they'll make all the rationalizations. So the online era of Counter-Strike don't mean shit, unfortunately. Like, that's just the grim reality. Online CS was a lottery anyway. Right now, the way Valve have fucked the game with every new update, it's a mega lottery. It's a real bad one. So I would have at least, like, for Davey, it was at least go to a LAN and see how it works out with the new rule for Nitro, but they didn't make it that far. And yeah, I agree. I think, listen, there was always going to have to be a point where they ripped the Band-Aid off. But again, I'm just like super surprised that we're going to have Stewie as an IGL, which I'm not 100% convinced by, I'll be honest. I think he's got leadership qualities, but leadership qualities does not an IGL make.
Yeah.
And, you know, they've brought in a young, unproven talent who, being like, as is typical for the NA scene, and just Counter-Strike in general, because he's a young player who's had his best performances online, is considered a bit of an onliner and a bit of a risk to pick up, you know. So I guess we'll talk about Grim being the guy that came in. It's now been officially announced. What do you think of this move? Because, I mean, like, Davey was made up saying, yeah, he definitely deserves a chance to play in a big team. You know, he's been absolutely wrecking people at Triumph, and he's had big games against like 100 Thieves, EG, EG in particular. You know, it's not like this is somebody that hasn't shown he can bang the heads off top tier opposition in online contests. So, do you think he's Team Liquid ready?
That's my problem, is when Davey says that, like, oh, he's good enough or whatever, he means just in a pure sense, like from playing with him, seeing him play, he thinks he's like quality that could be on Team Liquid. My problem is everything that I know about the esports industry and being a pro that isn't putting your crosshair on a guy and shooting him. So going to a LAN, being able to deal with stage pressure, being able to play with, all of a sudden, you aren't, like, this is a point I made in my video. It's actually going to be harder for Grim to become a really good LAN player than a player we don't know. Because the player we don't know will join a bad NA team, and if he gets to the LAN, he goes out in the first round. So he might even have a good game in that first map that he loses to Astralis or whatever, and go, oh, well, gave him a go. No, if you're Grim, you're coming to Team Liquid, mate. When we go to our first LAN, we're supposed to win that LAN. When we play and we have a bad tournament, that's quarterfinals for us. So you better be ready to play a best of 3 on stage against Na'Vi and Simple. Oh, the guy who's in the frag movies you're watching, yeah, he's just playing you right now. And if you aren't adapted to his level and you played your whole career against NA players, well, baptism of fire, innit? You're here now, mate. There's no getting out of it. And even worse, as you've seen with players in the past, Rops, etc., people won't give you time. You have to be mustered instantly because this is Team Liquid. At least Rops was even going to mouse spots, like at the time, in theory, a mid-table team. This guy's going to a team where we all look at the rest of the players and go, should be the #1 team in the world.
Yeah.
So the pressure is going to be as high as it can be, but his relative tier 1 LAN experience is as small as I've ever seen, I think, for a player making this big. Like, this has to be one of the biggest jumps I've ever seen. I know because online he looks like he's at that level. It looks like it isn't a jump. Like, obviously online he's better than Nitro. Here's the difference. Nitro might have some shit performances, but he knows how to play against the best teams in the world. He's done it many, many times. That's my issue with this move is, and I'll even tie in, this is where I actually think I can finally have that, like, rather petty moment of I told you so to some people that I referenced on past episodes. Wardell, you stupid motherfucker. The one thing Team Liquid needs is a dedicated AWPer. Nitro couldn't do it. You would have been the guy. This was your chance. You'd be in Team Liquid now, mate. You've even played on LAN. You've proven. But instead, you had to go and play Babby's fucking TF2 that isn't even an esport yet.
Yeah.
Well done, mate. Well done. Like, I'm not really blaming you that much, but I'm just saying you would have been one of the prime candidates for this. Come on, mate.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's also like when you talk about the dedicated AWPer thing, I had somebody message me, like one of these like insiders that sends me little, you know, I don't know if they are insiders or not, but they claim to be, and they send me little tidbits of info now and then. Right. Basically, the people who like, you know, check the Steam Friends hours, check what servers are on, have the practice IPs and stuff. And apparently, Twists has been fucking spamming AWP on Deathmatch and. You know,
of course, we'll take one of the best, like, single bullet AK players, probably ever from North America. I'll just say ever. And then we'll take him, have him on the AWPer call.
Yeah. So, listen, I can't advocate if that intel's legit or not. But, I mean, this guy sent me things in the past and, you know, there's probably some truth to them. I mean, like, people are invested in this kind of stuff. I'd never go deep for that smaller piece of information. I'd never go that hardcore, you know. But what it suggests is, even if it's vaguely true, and let's say Twist was just doing it for his own amusement or whatever, there is some intimation there that maybe they haven't got the whole AWP thing particularly licked. They have been swapping it around, and you know, it's when you watch the games. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go. And I agree, they might have wanted to take a dedicated AWPer on, but still, listen. It's going to be interesting to see what Grim can do. And I suppose if he is going to continue to play at this level online, well, good news, because we've got plenty more online tournaments to come. The question doesn't just become about whether or not you can hang at LAN. It's also, LAN is a fucking different beast in terms of how you get along with your teammates. Like, you might think this guy's mustard on the server and worthy of a Team Liquid jersey. Wait till you got to fucking, you know, bunk with the fella and spend fucking a week traveling. And, you know, he sits next to you on a fucking plane, takes his shoes off, and you just look
snores
at
in bed.
Yeah, snore. It doesn't do the washing up in the team house. You know, like, these are, I am not joking. Teams have broke up over things like this. Teams have broke up over not doing the washing up in the team house, not flushing the toilet after you've
just by 1,000 cuts in there. That's what it is.
It winds you the fuck up. It winds you the fuck up. And then if those people are too immature to change their behavior and you've got the tenure in the team, well, they're immediately out. So it's one of those, it could be a poison chalice.
That's true.
It could be a poison chalice, but I hope it isn't. Grim seems a good lad. Davey speaks highly of him. You know, I don't know him, but you know, at the end of the day, that's the move for Liquid, and we'll wait and see what it works out.
The actual LAN tenure to be in a team like this, I will say he has one of the most promising games I've ever seen of a North American player. Like, normally when they like, put it this way, when everyone likes to bring up that famous one where I said that I didn't think Stewie 2K would make it, that's because I was gambling on like the house fucking odds. I had like a 99% odds on that one.
Yeah.
And even then, by the way, I saw those games. Stewie 2K wasn't like fucking insane. He just did some nice gimmicky moves through smokes and stuff. Grim, it looks fucking amazing online. So I'll at least give him this as well. As long as they stick with him long enough, he looks like someone who will eventually, barring some massive psychological problems, be a good player on LAN. It's just I personally don't know that he'll be immediately. So that's my issue, basically. If LAN's come back tomorrow, I don't know that actually Team Liquid have solved their problem like they think they have.
Yeah, fair enough. So the next big story was we were waiting on what event was going to be the next regional major ranking event.
Some of us more literally than others.
Yeah, indeed. And it turns out that it's going to be IEM New York is going to be the one that contains points for the regional major ranking event for North America and CIS rather, I should say. And they're going to host a European event as well, but with no points, I think, is how it's going to work. So it's not a surprise to see a prestigious, well-organized event being picked by Valve. No real surprises there. And as we did like a bit of a regional major ranking special on the last episode, it's probably worth just giving you a little recap about both of those regions and who's in pole position. You know, it gets interesting down the bottom. Like, Evil Geniuses are out in front with Gen G just behind them and 100 Thieves just behind them. They would all qualify as legend. Team Liquid are in fourth, but there's actually like a 400-point drop-off, and there's like something like, 900 points, I think it might be, or a little bit more, 700, I think, actually, between them and Evil Geniuses. They would qualify as a challenger. Cloud9 are in fifth. They would qualify as a contender, and obviously there's only 5 positions up for grabs. Furia are just 25 points behind Cloud9. So with all of those teams going to be there, you've got Furia there, you've got MIBR there. And I suppose we'll talk about MIBR as well. They're 800 points behind Furia. This would really be their time to shine. Like, if they win this event, conceivably they can go to the major, but they have to have a good run. If they crap out here, no major for MIBR. And I'll be honest about it, I think a lot of people will see great Schadenfreude with how they've behaved throughout, with the co-ownership of that probably should have disqualified them anyway. And interesting as well, remember, it's ESL's conflict of interest rules that have been co-signed now by Valve. So they said they were aiming for 0%. So what's going to happen here? Like, because I know, are we going to look at all of that and apply all of that? Like, they haven't announced all of the people. Like, could a year in the qualifiers, I think.
I don't know. I would assume probably.
Yeah, so interesting. But then, so I think there's still a potential that they could be there. It's unlikely, but then when you get down to like Triumph, Team Envy, and Chaos Esports Club, turns out they're pretty much out of the running, even if they were to make it and go to this event and win it. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I think basically the two Brazilian teams are on the cusp. One of them could have a really deep run here and upset, say, Cloud9. It's not inconceivable Team Liquid could be pushed out of the running if Furia have a good run. So there's still a lot to play for at this event, and it's one that I imagine will be particularly hard fought. Over at CIS, it's a little bit more cut and dry. The crazy thing is that Team Spirit are the top team there. Na'Vi have had a fucking nightmare in general. Then you've got, it goes right the way down to Virtus.Pro in 5th. And then, honestly, there's like a 300-point gap. And you probably could see, like, maybe Windstrike could sneak in there, Espada could sneak in there, the Gambit youngsters could sneak in there. But I think, in general, the top 5 you'll see in CIS are probably going to be the ones that go as things stand. They would have to be an absolute disaster for some of these teams, including Virtus.Pro, who we'll talk about a little bit later. But that's basically what's up for grabs at this particular tournament. Now, what came out with it, unfortunately, is it was very upsetting to see, because Valve also announced their partners across the board in terms of who was going to do the South American events, rather, and the people they've chosen for it are Omelette Co, and this is basically in partnership, with Gaules. So we've had all this drama and bullshit caused by this Brazilian tantrum, this insane levels of corral we've never seen before, where they have accused 2 players on Chaos of cheating for the simple act of only beating MIBR, which anybody can do these days. Ruined their lives, essentially rendered it. I did an interview with Steel. You can go watch it. It's on the front page of Reddit right now, or you can go and watch it on the YouTube channel. CS, make sure you sign up there if you want to see more interviews like that one. And he literally said, there's no way even he as an in-game leader would allow Leaf to attend if they were to qualify, which it looks like it's borderline mathematically impossible, if not mathematically impossible. So academic. But Valve coming out and saying, yeah, we'll work with Gaules, that's fine. And after that absolute scenes where, let's be clear, Gaules has accused a player in a tournament of cheating, and he is the official tournament partner of choice for South American broadcasts, to the point where it is now held as the truth that those 2 players did cheat, apropos of nothing except a couple of clips. There's no real hard evidence there at all. And as Steele said in the interview I did with him, even Fallen, who had publicly accused him of cheating and then tried to walk it back, DM'd Steele and said, yeah, sorry about that. Then asked him, are you sure he isn't cheating? So they don't regret anything. They believe they still are so deluded. They believe they got cheated again.
I just don't understand the principle of due process, as far as I can tell. They think, right, I know you did it, therefore that's it. I myself am going to administer the punishment. It's that's what they don't get. I don't care even if you're Fallen. You might be the godfather of fucking Brazilian counterstrike. You're not the fucking judge and jury and executioner on cases like this. Sit the fuck down back in your chair.
Yeah. And then on top of that, so you get Valve saying, yeah, we'll work with Gaules. It's Valve. They're tone deaf and probably don't care all that much about any of that stuff. So that's fine. But then ESL announced today, and now I hope you understand why Gaules put out that meaningless fake apology.
You notice this trend with Brazilians, by the way. They're also cynical. The apology always comes like a week before the thing that the apology now allows. Like when KNG did that apology to me, magically right before, he didn't at the time, but he was going to join MIBR. People don't know it just didn't happen behind the scenes. So, yeah, it's the same shit all over again, I've no doubt.
Yeah, so basically, DreamHack, ESL have said, we'll partner with Gaules to be, the official...
I can believe even ESL told him to do that. Said, until you do this, we can't do the partnership. Yeah. They're cynical enough to do it. It's viewers. They're going to get a lot more viewers.
Yeah, but this is what it opens you up to, and I'll just read what Carmack said, because Carmack responded. He's good like that. He does respond on the on Reddit when these things come up. So there's a little bit of transparency there. He said, I see a number of comments here related to the recent controversies around Gaules, and I will address them here. Our media team, who managed the media rights to our content, I don't know if you want to bring this up as well, Sam. I think the link's in the chat. Duncan put it in earlier. Has held conversations with Gaules over the topic before the extension and let him know that for an official broadcast provider for a TO, such things are out of place. So to put it in plain language, an official ESL broadcast partner should not speculate or pass judgment on a tournament participant without sufficient proof. He is not ESL, but he indirectly represents our product. We expect that our broadcast partners conduct themselves up to a high standard. Gaules understands this. I've just had a call with him to confirm he understands it, and I do not expect that this is going to be a thing going forward. So as is the classic ESL way, congratulations, you've done it half right. You've done it half right. Because, yeah, that is a conversation that you should have with him. Probably should have had that conversation with him the other half a dozen times he stirred up a fan base to fucking attack someone, and you've still gone and worked with him as the official South American and Brazilian broadcast partner. So, food for thought, but then equally, you have now lost any right to say that you care about player welfare, and I'll understand what, and I'll explain why, so you get it fully. This individual, Gaules, drummed up a hate campaign against a 16-year-old boy by taking part of his stream, reviewing all of his clips, anyone that looked even slightly suspicious. He brought on pros and did interviews with them to ask them their opinion on these clips. Pros that in some cases had just lost a game and were fools to themselves because of the bitterness that brought. He then also brought on KNG to intimate that Leaf was cheating his family out of a future that he had sacrificed living at home for by being in America in an interview to play that fucking violin some more. And again, you can't trust KNG.
Doesn't learn, does he? He just doesn't learn, man.
Right? He ramped up the witch hunt to fucking maximum.
And then
maximum
also, I
corral
was going to take the money if I'd have finished first and invested it into a cancer cure. So he's just stopped the potential cancer cure, guys.
Yeah,
once you'd have cancer, fuck it. How far are we going to go with this?
Right, this is all true. Go check it yourself. You can read my article on it with links. It's all verifiable. They even afterwards went to the Brazilian press, who they're friendly with, like at Brazil ESPN, who ran lurid headlines, Chaos accused of cheating in weird match or something against MIBR. Of course, the only people accusing them were utter morons, and of course, the king of the morons, Gaules himself. Now, as a result of this, not only have they affected competitive integrity directly, because that is a heavy fucking load to put on a 16-year-old's shoulders, right? He was pretty jubilant after the game. He had to deal with Fallen calling him a cheater and thousands of people saying they will kill him and his family if they ever get the opportunity to do so. And I've read some of those comments, such as, for example, the ones who said they want to cut off our members for whatever fucking reason. Because, you know, a culture that is seemingly homophobic, all of their insults are some of the gayest things I've ever read. I literally had a guy today, when the Gaules announcement went through, suck my balls, bald man. I mean, okay, if you like that kind of thing, I guess. You know, 24 and all that. But anyway, so that player was then negatively affected in all the matches subsequently. And I asked Steele about this, and he said, yeah, those guys were fucking shook and they couldn't concentrate. And we've all been thinking in the camp, what is the point in even qualifying for an event we realistically cannot attend if we value our lives? So that team no longer feels that they can compete in a major qualifier, that there is no point in doing that. And ESL are now partnering with the person who created that and enabled that. So ESL now, and this is just one thing, I've got another, but I'll let you jump in. They forfeit the right to ever say they care about player welfare ever again, because clearly you don't, because you're willing to trade that. You're willing to trade all of that for a few extra 100,000 viewers on your final total.
Yeah, one thing I would say is, right? Because I know I've had that experience, literally the experience you're talking about, obviously, where people go, you won't attend the event because of that. What are you, little pussy? You thin-skinned or something? You're the same people who say that, who are still crying about Richard blocking you 2 years ago, you daft cunt. You bring it up on Reddit like you were dining out on a story where you met fucking Jerry Rice and beat him in a 40-yard dash or something. Like, the internet is full of the most thin-skinned motherfuckers of all time. And I'll tell you where to go and find them. They're the ones calling everyone else out. It's ridiculous. Like, if I was Leaf and I even got 10 death threats, I think I'll just skip that event.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I mean, you know, it's an absurd thing that you even have to talk about it. It's absurd that you even have to sort of like trade it off. Where's the line? Like, I guess if he only gets 20 death threats, you should probably still go, but 100, nah, that's too many. You know, this is ridiculous. And Gaules knows what he's doing. He even in his apology explicitly worded it in a way that stated, I essentially still believe that these guys cheated. I have been linked by morons in my Twitter DMs to dozens and dozens of Brazilian clout-chasing losers making highlight clips of Leafs play. And, look, the crosshair went here and he's cheating. Zita, like just screaming and screeching. That's the rest of that kid's life, right? That's the rest of that kid's professional career. Like, you probably may as well fucking chuck it in and go play Fortnite. You only have to win one tournament. You know what I mean? It's bollocks. It's absolute bollocks what Gaules did. So on the first fucking point, right? ESL. That's what I mean. It's like, guys, don't try and walk the moral line if you can't walk. If you can't walk it, just don't. Like, just never speak on the issues. Be like Valve.
Yep.
You know, just don't speak up unless your Chinese money's getting fucking threatened. You know, that's it. How many Dota players have said racist or xenophobic things and there's never been an issue? And then, someone said it about Chinese before a Chinese event. We will never tolerate the threat to our Chinese money, friends, our Chinese. Like, it's a joke, like every other corporation on planet Earth. But I will say this about Valve: at least they fucking keep their fucking mouths shut the rest of the time. Yeah. Like, fair enough, that was just their Chinese money. I don't remember seeing Gabe Newell tweet out, "We must respect women." Like, I've never seen that. So that's all right then. Like, he's prepared to count the money and shut the fuck up. I can respect it. Yeah. Right? ESL have come out many times and talked about how they support player rights and support this and support that. You have now partnered with a streamer whose toxic fan base and negative behavior has basically led to death threats being levied at 2 young men, one actually a kid, a teenager.
You know, right? One thing, I'm going to say this, Richard, and I'm going to do it knowing what I'm saying is futile, redundant, and won't have any effect.
Yeah.
Insert your own jokes. That's every episode and everything you said on. Yeah, obviously, I know that. The jokes are themselves. But what I'm going to say is this. I'm not even joking when I say it. Sounds like an issue for the CSPPA. Do you protect players? Do you speak up for players? Exactly. Sadly, it's a legit point, but it's just a waste of time. And it's like going, why don't the ADL actually go after people who are really doing bad shit? It's like, well, we all know why, don't we? It's not real.
Yeah, of course. But anyway, so the second point is this. So there is also a broadcaster standard that we need to assess. Now, let me tell you,
yes,
I know that ESL have taken action against broadcast talent.
Let me just give you a thought experiment for a second.
Yeah.
Imagine this, right? Imagine a month after EMS won Katowice 2014 in March, the event I was removed from as an employee, technically freelancer, because of my comments about Poland, half of them jokes, but whatever, people were offended by them, on that Unfiltered show. That's like if next month, right after Katowice, I was the official English language streamer of the next fucking ESL LAN. Yeah. Do you think, could you even, that's why I say a thought exercise, can you even fathom it? And what would be the one reason as to why they'd do it in this case? Because obviously we all know they'd never do that, right? Of course they wouldn't let me be a co-streamer. Oh, sorry, but if I had 300,000 fans, they would.
Yeah.
Essentially, again, they're just literally ideological prostitutes. Do you have enough fans, which translates eventually to money for us, right? You can do whatever you want. Or are you just a normal person? Fuck you.
Yeah.
It can't be that stance. It's got to be one. It's got to be one or the other.
Yeah, but it just never is going to be that. We will never exist in our lives, in our tiny lives. We'll never exist in a timeline that operates like that.
Yes.
It is basically, what can you do for me? You know, how chummy are we behind the scenes? And this will inform our moral imperatives and behavioral standards. How nice have you been to the general public? How pandering are you? That will actually dictate the reaction from the community in the first place and whether or not you're cancelable. Like, you know, if you've been a pandering piece of shit your entire career and a fake two-faced arsehole living basically a duplicitous life when the cameras are around, I love you, I love the fans, I owe you everything. Don't owe you a fucking thing, dickheads. What are you talking about? Grafting my nuts off your ear because you get something out of it and I get something out of it because we have a quid pro quo. I entertain you, yes. You reward me for that entertainment. It's fucking fine. You know, it's like when people tell me I threw $1 in your fucking Patreon, like, so what do you want me to do? It's fucking all right. I'm dancing now. Like, you know, like it's so insane how people think, right? But I'm honest about it, and pretty much what you see is what you get, and not everyone will like it. But the duplicitous fucking pieces of shit, right? Who literally are like, haha, I love you guys, and then they turn the camera off and they go, I fucking hate the fans. It's the thing I hate the most. You know, I can't stand them. I can't stomach them. They live by no code, no moral standard. They got no values. They just want to count the Skrilla. And they know that one day they'll have enough money in the bank where they can just take the mask off and go, I fucking hated you dirtbags all along. And now you can't cancel me. They're the people that, like, literally, that's esports is full of those people. And like you say, me and you were still eating shit for things we did 5-6 years ago because we don't bring the same kind of, like, you know, we can't just command an army of fucking morons to go and, like, click on this stream and type Gao Tribo over and over again and you know, like, just do this. And everyone goes, brilliant, love it, passionate fan base. And then they put it in their deck, 300,000. You know, 300,000 people from Brazil, amazing numbers. Yeah, but what are you co-signing when you do it? So let's just talk about broadcast talent and the standard they've set. DreamHack have had the fucking audacity. Forget the fact they're lying fucking scumbags and still lie about the Loader incident. They've never, even after 5 years, they've never come clean and just said we threw Richard Lewis under the bus and it was mainly Hellspawn's doing and we actually warned him about it and we should have put this all to bed, you know, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, because having the lies out there doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help Loader. He's miserable as fuck, being the guy whenever he goes to a tournament. Ha! You got fucking wrecked by Richard Lewis. I'm miserable as fuck. Ha! You're the guy that swanton bombed an 8-year-old refugee through a fucking table in Sweden, hell in a cell. I'm sick of that, right? DreamHack should be sick of fucking the whole incident being one of the first things that come up when you Google the word DreamHack. They should have just come out and just said, yeah, listen, we were in a hot spot. We didn't know how to deal with it. Nothing like that had ever happened before. We handled it dog shit for all parties. And actually, here's what really happened. It was a little bit of handbags. No one was choked. No one was wrestled to the floor. These are just lies that we said to try and, you know, find the sacrificial lamb. They never did it. But DreamHack, shit company full of shit cunts, shit houses, two-faced cunts. The same people who did that to me, by the way, came to E-League as guests of honor because I didn't kibosh it. And then they had the audacity to try and come up and say hello to me. And I said, mate,
they always do in esports, isn't it? It's one of the number one things.
I said, all the things you lied about me doing to Loader, you better fuck off out my face now or I'll do them for real to you. Because the fucking audacity of that, the nerve of that, to come to my place of work after you tried to fuck me out of that job in the first place with your fucking lives. And then you want to come and have a cup of coffee and a tea and hang out because we used to know each other in StarCraft. Get the motherfuck out my face forever, you little lying bitches. You should kiss my fucking feet for not publishing the Skype logs that would absolutely burn you to the fucking ground, you arseholes. So anyway, DreamHack, lovely company, right? But anyway, they've come to us on a broadcast when we've made jokes, haven't they? Right? You're a bit raunchy, you know, a bit raunchy, that joke. Can you tone it down? We didn't like that sponsor throw. Can you tone that down? Guys, this type of humor is unacceptable. Right, remember the time when Fnatic got arsey because you said Flusher looked like he'd been holding on to the one ring and because they're deprecious on a fucking pre-show and Fnatic threatened that they were going to leave the event over Thorin Shield saying that Flusher looked like Gollum because that's how pathetic and fragile the average pro is. It's not enough they make tens of thousands of dollars, more money than us, get all the fame, get all the accolades, have weird mouse crosshair movements that can't be explained. But, you know, it's not enough. enough. No, we must worship them at all times. Can't even have a little bit of fun at their expense. So DreamHack literally came to us and basically said to Duncan, you make another joke like that, we'll probably be off the show, because Fnatic are talking about pulling out. And funny enough, it happened with Cloud9 as well in the past, if I remember rightly. And then they came up to me and said, Richard, how dare you let Thorin be unleashed? Like I'm the fucking puppet master in your brain, strings coming out the back, like some Cronenberg movie. Dance, Thorin, say the funny words. Like they literally chewed me up for not being able to control you. What the fuck does that even mean? Right? So, you care about broadcast behavior. Your official partner accused a competitor in a tournament of cheating, dedicated his stream to it, and now that person can never go to Brazil, even if they qualified for the event that your parent company is running. Don't you ever talk about standards for broadcast talent again. I don't care if someone jumps up on the desk and shits on it. You better not speak up. I swear to God, you better not speak up. You fucking hypocritical cunts. So I'm definitely talking about DreamHack for fucking real, right? And ESL, as I said, I don't have as much of a problem with you, but what a hypocrisy. What a hypocrisy to impose broadcast standards, and then you let one of the worst offenders, a guy who has committed something so bad, so egregiously over the top for a partnered streamer, you are happy to co-sign that behavior. You couldn't even, by the way, you could have said, we were going to do a deal for this event, but to penalise him, we're not taking him for this one, and then we're going to take him for the one after. Would have been at least better optics about it, and you would have lulled us into a false sense of security that you actually fucking give a shit about anything except the numbers.
That's always the problem, though, Richard. If you notice, the thing that always adds the extra salt in the wound is always the unnecessary parts. It's like, as you just said there, dude, the easiest PR win of all time is what you just said there. You make a public statement. We have chosen to partner with someone else. We would, due to, as a minor penalty towards Gaules in regards to his behavior in the last road to Rio. Remember, it was the fucking same tournament organizer. So if you just give him a slap on the wrist and he can come back for next event, all you lose is one event. No, because this is how you know these are boardrooms of cunts looking at each other, soulless, dead eyes, just going, money is all that matters. Because one of them just says, why don't we just do all the events with him?
Yeah.
What would the backlash of that be? And then some cunt with a fucking extra sketch comes out, starts calculating it all, going, oh yeah, we would have a minor backlash in this demographic, but this demographic could be eased with a different campaign. We could maybe give a charitable donation to a thing. These people are scum. The worst thing is they've gamified being cunts. They're not even just doing it as bad people. They're doing it in like a manner where it's like they've got a fucking technique to it, where they've studied like all the angles to it. So that, as I say, like all you had to do was give them a small slap on the wrist. But you just thought to yourself, well, if I'm going to work with them again, I'll just take those viewers as well. Those viewers, even if they're worth only a little bit, I need every little fucking last drop. That's esports in a nutshell. And by the worst thing about esports is, it's one thing when it was just a bunch of people lying about video games. Someone is going to die because of esports. Think about the world we live in, Richard, where it's announced, right? We've known the whole year. We're just supposed to pretend a major is going to happen in Brazil. It was supposed to have already happened, wasn't it? Was it supposed to be going on now or something? And then it's still going to happen this year. Similarly, in League of Legends, they're supposed to pretend that they're all cool with all these players from around the world going to fucking China in 2020 for a world championship. Are you out of your mind? This is considered just acceptable. In fact, even worse, it's not that people don't call it out and nothing happens. People don't even call it out anymore because that's the new normal. The new normal is that we all just pretend that if someone lies to you for money, that's real, because who'd want to be the man who steps out of line? The world is fucked right now. It is so out of control. Because as you say, it's one thing if you're just cynical and you go, I don't care, I'm going to do everything that benefits me. They do that. That is how they operate. And at the same time, they want to scoop up all the plaudits for being the best guy in the world. It's outrageous. It's outrageous.
No, it is, mate. And so beyond, like, when I saw it, I knew as well, like, it stirred up the Corralho again, like, just had Brazilian spamming me all day, like, some glorious victory for them. And in a way, it is a vindication. Essentially, what ESL and DreamHack are saying is, it's all right to behave like that as long as you tune in for the broadcast. That's basically it. And I'm just, like I say, I'm sick and tired of sort of, like you say, this is the new normal now. Just like you say, milk it to the last drop. And look, we've come perilously close. I mean, technically, we have already had deaths in esports. You remember that Madden tournament in America where a competitor brought a gun and made it and shot. Maybe you can say that's a unique situation and all of that. But I am telling you, we are not fucking prepared. We had it at the was it iBuyPower at the start of last year?
Yeah, the iBuyPower Masters. Yes, the one where the bomb threat or whatever.
No, what it was they had metal detectors that they weren't using, and somebody noticed that they weren't using them and just letting people in without checking bags using the metal detectors. So someone tweeted, "I am sat here right now with a gun." And lo and behold, the event got shut down. Everyone had to leave. They decided to use the metal detectors and go back through again. It's like, guys, like, if he's a psycho and not just a troll, it's already over.
He wouldn't tweet it, obviously. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, someone's clipped. Someone's clipped. Someone's dead. Whoever he's got a petty grievance with, because you couldn't be asked to fucking turn the metal detectors, 90 degrees. Yeah, it's wild. We're just so underprepared for this. You saw the Blast Russia event where that guy just walked in, got his bag through security, pretended to be a worker, mate. And now we're talking about, an event where, thousands of threats are issued to almost anyone for any reason. Basically, not being Brazilian seems to be the biggest crime you can commit, or not being a Brazilian fan.
Here's one I'll throw in for you. You know what? If we're going to ban people from events or punish them for statements made when they're partners, remember, Carmack's just said there that indirectly Gaules represents ESL. Mm-hmm. Gaules himself said to me, and I don't know if he said to you, I can't remember if it was someone else. He said, "The come to Brazil mean to me." The joke is that he kills me if I go there. That's the joke.
Yeah. Well, also, you wouldn't dare come to Brazil because there will be violent reprisals. I mean, that's like the most charitable interpretation, right?
And that's not like even his fans doing that. He did that. That was his meme he was using. That's so outrageous, isn't it?
Yeah. No, it's wild. It's wild. I just don't get it. And I like to say
as well, by the way, the people who have only ever been on their computer, they've never been in a pub and had a fight, they've never been in the street and seen someone come up to them, they've never been at a festival and had someone just throw a glass of piss over them for no reason. Because they always say the same thing, Richard. Why are you scared? No one will do anything. It only takes one person to kill you. That's it. Even if literally all of them were faking except one guy, you can't know that he's out there. How can you know who the millions of Brazilian fans are? You don't.
Yeah. Well, no, but think about this store. Like, everyone knows that one story from that one fucking guy who got fucking punched once outside, like from a sucker punch, fell over,
and his head hit the pavement in the dying.
And he's just dead.
Super famous story. Yeah.
Yeah, but mate, it's happened. It's happened so many times. It's happened so many times.
I've even heard. I won't say I know them, but there was a person in my area had that. He just got hit with a flash knockout, and he was just dead. And the bad thing, by the way, is just to push the point home. It wasn't some fucking specky nerd. It was just a normal bloke. That could just happen. And it wasn't even, by the way, some fight to the death, as I'm pointing out. It's just outside a pub. Someone punched him. He said someone punched him. He's dead.
People need to realize, like, violence is just something that could just happen in the blink of an eye, and it's fucking life-changing, and it's fucking horrible. So when people say, "Oh, you're a pussy," mate, I don't want to sound like Rutger Hauer at the end of Blade Runner, but I've seen things you people wouldn't believe.
Broken jaws.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
Yeah, so just to throw it all in there, Borough Life. But yeah, so long story short, very disappointed to see Valve, ESL, DreamHack, everyone else essentially co-sign some of the worst behaviour I've seen from a partner commentator in Counter-Strike history.
And also, again, this is the same scenario as when I pointed out that all these companies aren't just really saying, "Oh, I support gay people," but then all my actions in business that make me money, I'll go against gay people. That, as I said, that the worst part about that is it makes a mockery of the act of publicly supporting gay people. In a similar fashion, how the fuck can I respect the apologies of people that clearly did it for cynical reasons and don't believe any of the apology, and then got that response where, I mean, I won't call out some of our fellow talent who also misread how genuine that was. They were getting praised for this. He was getting praised for writing an apology for his shitty behavior. Where's the praise? It's like when people said this, Richard, like you probably saw this as well. People were like, "Well, bravo to Riot for cancelling that deal." What are you talking about? That's like saying I plan to rape someone and I've decided not to. Well, bravo to you. It's good not to rape. What are you talking about? That's the normal status to not do it. You don't get praise for that.
No,
the whole world is so upside down. It's mental.
Oh no, I'm
a cookie and a fucking medal for not partnering with genocidal tyrants.
No, I know it is mental, mate. It is mental. That's just where we're living. This is how we're living. But whatever. Right. Move on to the next story. I'm conscious of time. I don't want to keep you too late because I know obviously you've got an extra hour on top of me. So that was another big story. I'm just having a look. I'm trying to sort them in order of priority. The Mad Lions pickup, I guess, is worth talking about. Innocent, the Polish player, moved to Mad Lions on a free transfer. This comes after their proposed move for Lekro, who looked like he was going to replace Bubzkji, fell through for reasons. Apparently, I don't know if it was like just some failed negotiations, couldn't agree on a price or whatever.
I believe that was what it was.
Yeah, but Innocent, the Polish player, has joined from his team, and it's been confirmed by management that no money changed hands whatsoever. They just let the player go because they, identified it was probably a bit unfair to preclude him from having this opportunity. So, as I said earlier, when we were talking about the Astralis move, sort of brings the show full circle before we get to viewer questions. I was very surprised that Bubzkji was ever benched in the first place, and I don't want to say this because we have buried the hatchet now. Obviously, Peacemaker is the coach over there, and trust me, he gets his way. He gets what he wants. But I don't know if it was related to him at all. It just seems very strange that Bubzkji was benched ever. But bringing in Innocent, he's a player that, to be fair, he's a little bit older. He's like 26. I don't think he's of the same caliber of player. It kind of feels like a little bit of a tepid replacement, and it doesn't give me a lot of hope that Mad Lions are going to be the same prospect they were even a few months ago when the Bubzkji situation was fine.
Like, the joke here is you can go two ways on it, right? Either how fucking short is that shortlist, in which case, yes, Peacemaker is a joke, or how fucking long was the list that eventually at the bottom you got to Innocent, a guy who was a talent 5 or 6 years ago, hasn't even been relevant for like 2 or 3 years. He was only playing in Polish teams the last years and isn't even considered in the modern day one of the promising Polish players. This is ridiculous. And then not only are you bringing that guy in, but you're bringing him in to replace one of the most irreplaceable players in your team who doesn't even have the same playing style at all. And then on top of that, you now have to speak English because the other player was Danish and you were all 5 Danes. This is just like across the board. This is a fucking L of epic proportions. Like, you think as someone who works for Flashpoint, I'm not insanely underwhelmed that the best team in Flashpoint just fucking tanked their team. This is mental.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very strange one. And I don't know what's been going on with the Mad Lions, like on a financial level. They seem to be doing particularly well holistically as an organization. They seem to have really turned a corner. And it does seem a bit weird that they've had to go for a Polish player on a free transfer. Now, again, I don't know if maybe Peacemaker's seen something in the player. I know one thing that Peacemaker does do is he's involved with the recruitment a lot. Also, as well, like, I mean, was Hunden?
No, he's with Heroic now.
He went to Heroic, that's it, yeah. I don't know if Hunden, maybe said anything on the way out or like gave him a shortlist, but it's clear like Innocent wasn't the first pick. They really had high hopes for Lekro.
If people don't know, by the way, I actually retweeted it today because it's so apt. Hunden himself did a tweet where, even though it was like a copy pasta of what something that people said, the sentiment behind it was true. He basically said he hopes that Lekro gets fucking wrecked for like what he's done to Mad Lions. Because if people don't know, you know what? I'll just fucking say some of it here. Like, it's not all privileged information. Essentially, that was a deal that was supposed to be done. And then, but we all know there's a reason that cliche exists. Until they sign on the dotted line, nothing is done. As, by the way, FPX found out not that long ago. So that's the problem, is they obviously thought it's fine to let Bubzkji go because we're bringing in Lekro. Listen, still a downgrade in my opinion, but whatever. If you think he has social problems, maybe it's an upgrade in that regard. Maybe it all evens out. But the idea that, like, you obviously didn't. That's why I said the shortlist had to be fucking long. There's no way Innocent was even in your top 5. He wasn't. Dude, I don't even know if he's a top 10 Polish player. This is ridiculous. So the idea you end up with him, there's something suspicious going on there. Come on.
Yeah, and I nearly forgot the other one because I did say we talk about this. AdreN has finally left Virtus.Pro. I did say we'd talk about them after a while. Not really a surprising move. I mean, I think this iteration of Virtus.Pro hasn't been great.
That's slamming the door when you're already, after you slammed the door, sticking your kid's picture on the fridge with the fucking glue the horse was made from, you daft cunt.
Yeah.
The idea you're kicking him now in 2020.
I know. But yeah.
I just love to sit them down. So what was it that finally made you see it then? What made you wake up one day and go, wait a minute, what's that dog shit old cunt doing now? He's totally terrible at the game. Or he's been in the team the whole time. He must have been better before, though. Nah, I like that the whole time. Didn't we go to the bit final major? We could have played better. Like, fuck you know, give me a break.
I just love that you can call like one of the nicest, sort of most decorated, veterans guy, yeah. from his region. He's, that dog shit old cunt. Yeah, love him. This podcast is insane.
Fair, one, he literally took a picture in a beef that had nothing to do with him of him just doing a middle finger to me, as lots of VIS players did. I've told you this before, guys. Don't fuck with me. I have like a perfect memory for shit like that. Similarly, by the way, you know what? I don't give a fuck anymore. Fallen and Taz, yeah, you also tried to get me and Richard fucking fired from DreamHack events and not working with them anymore. So you know what? It's on with you forever. Every time you ever slip up, I said this internally the moment I saw it, but I just didn't come out publicly with it. It's on forever. You might now try and be nice and cool. No, you went after my livelihood, mate. All because you're so thin-skinned you couldn't handle someone bantering. So it's on. So enjoy the rest of your career. Because for that one moment where, by the way, as Richard said, you failed to get me fired, you now get that forever. So if you're Fallen, every time you try to make a comment, why is he bringing up me cheating again on the fucking live television broadcast? Oh, that's a shame, isn't it, Fallen? I just got that little memory I can't get out the old box there, mate. It's circulating around there. And that just brings it up. The thing with someone like Fallen is he's a really cool guy if you have a beer with him. But if he says the wrong thing and it brings up that memory again, he's gone and done it again. Dr. Jekyll's gone to become Mr. Hyde again. You all done it to yourself, didn't you? I didn't do that. You did that.
Well, so
whatever.
So back to Virtus.Pro. We were segueing into the other show, petty grievances again. Petty grievances. They've got an active. They haven't announced a replacement because they have got Buster on the inactive roster. Crazy to think, by the way, Buster was one of the guys that was sort of made way for that Yakindar player that they brought in.
Maybe you just said, I'm fucking piecing out until you get rid of AdreN. They were like, months.
Maybe a holiday. But, obviously, look, I think AdreN, like, people don't realize what a mad career he has had. And he's still only 30 years old. He's been in the scene as long as I've been covering it, competing, and at the highest level. He's I don't know if there'll be another team for him. I certainly hope if he's going to continue playing at the level he is, we don't see it, because you don't want legends to completely, ruin their legacy. But yeah, I don't know if they are going to, but there's no like replacement been intimated. And with Buster on the bench, as I said, I was surprised when he stood down anyway. So I think they'll just bring him back. And then if they do, it just by the nature of AdreN not being there, it has to be
a better lineup. Yeah. That's not a terrible lineup if you put him back in with Yakinda in the team as well.
No, and remember, Virtus.Pro are in that 5th spot. This roster move is probably going to count towards their... obviously, it's going to impact on their overall points because of the point deductions. They've made moves in the past, so I think they lose like 20% of their current points, which is going to work out like 650 points. So it's a big move to make at this stage. It keeps them in 5th. They need to have a decent showing at IEM New York, or they could slip away. They could be the one that makes way, and that'd be weird seeing such a big brand not make it to the major. That's definitely happening. So there we have it. It's that time now, viewer questions. For those of you who don't know how we do things over on the old By the Numbers, we do have a Patreon, right? People sign up. People brought the podcast back from the dead. And if you pay $50 or more, you get to ask us a question. It can be about anything, not just esports. We often regret it, but unless they're absolutely outrageous, we do read them on air. So think about that. Obviously, no one's got $50 spare, except the people that want to get us cancelled by asking their outrageous questions on Twitch. But if you do, that's what you get. RezChi says, Sam, Thorin and Rich are stranded on a tropical island. Who is the leader? Who is the food gatherer and who dies first?
That's actually easy, mate. Because first of all, you would obviously be the leader because it's just a role you've taken on in many different capacities in your career. So, I mean, and also if people don't know, one of the defining characteristics of my career, it's actually one of the reasons I've had so many troubles at Flashpoint, is I don't like being a leader of a project. I like to just do my own shit and just be my own man. And part of that, in my opinion, comes with the idea that if I'm going to be my own man and do that shit, you do your shit as well. Like, let's not have me tell you what to do or you tell me what to do. You just do your thing. I'll do my thing. So I'm not really the sort of leader type person, mate. It's not my shit.
Are you happy about this, Sam?
He's the food gatherer.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, but then that means you're dead, mate. So one of us is fucked. One of us is eating. So
someone has to die.
Why has someone got to die? What if we're doing
maybe
food
like
gathering
some fucking
correct?
Jesus figure. I'll die so you can live. That was my ultimate. It was metaphorically what I was doing the whole time in esports anyway. Except I wasn't even doing it through investigative journalism. I was just doing edgy tweets that were sort of on point, but just phrased the wrong way and on the wrong day. So
yeah, well,
I've watched a lot of survival
to die
YouTube
as a
videos,
matter.
mate. I reckon I could get some food. Set up
To be fair, you do like Ray Mears and all that stuff, don't you?
Yeah.
You know, you love that one where he's you love that one.
I don't love Ray
Mears
Mears as a person. He means just like adventure.
No, the shows,
stuff. Yeah, Bear Grylls, all that shit.
Yeah, and you love that episode of Bear Grylls where he's up a cliff and he shits himself. You love that one.
Bear Grylls sounds like the sickest hip hop group of all time.
Oh, it does, doesn't it, mate?
The UK rap group.
Well, if Duncan's happy to die for our sins, then I guess I'm happy to be the leader.
For me to gather, mate.
Yeah, true. We can even make Duncan the food, I guess. You wouldn't have an objection to us cannibalising your corpse, would you, if you died?
I mean, at this point in time, what's the left? I'm stuck on an island with you two for the rest of my life.
I'm just asking. I'm trying to be polite about
Fair
it.
enough.
You know, there's obviously some people that are a bit weird and would object. Even though you're dead, you object to me eating your body. I'd turn you into some wicked bacon, I reckon, man. So, just saying. Anyway, that's the question. Hope that answers it. Alon asks, if you guys had to be stuck in... Why is it just us stuck in horrible situations?
I know, what's this theme?
There's the theme from nowhere. If you guys had to be stuck in a room for 48 hours, with another esports talent or player, who would it be? And just to add to it, there is no food or water, but an unlimited amount of cocaine.
Wait a minute. Let me just check this again. I just need to... So it's another one. Oh, it's in a room. That's right.
Yeah, so you're in a room.
Right, okay.
Yeah, we're not in the room with
for 48 hours.
It's you, someone else. For me, I mean, because
here's what I would like to do. I would just pick someone ridiculous that would never obviously do cocaine. Like, I'd like to just be there with like Pronax or something and just see him just chomping his own face like,
mate,
fuck, you're all cheated. Like,
mate, you can just see him coming off. Pure joy. Just fucking
imagine the glow. Think about what he's like when he smiles anyway. Imagine the glow when he just gets hit by that euphoria.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It'd be like some out of a fucking Disney movie or something.
Get on that fucking
amazing.
yo-yo. But you see, I've been in a room with unlimited amounts of cocaine with lots of these people. So it's like I've had the experience. I know which ones work, but yeah, I'd want to throw in someone I've never done beak with before and someone that I think could be fun if there was beak there. It's a hard question, really.
And listen, if he wasn't a pussy, Anders would obviously be a good one.
Oh, yeah, I mean, Anders only does...
I'd love to see that guy just fucking...
listen,
enough weight. Shit, if he just couldn't shut the fuck up talking...
He's lost enough weight now. It's safe. You know,
I don't know if that's it. Listen, Richard is not a doctor and he's not spying.
Well, mate, all right, you're right. But he definitely wasn't safe before when he was over 300 fucking pounds.
Listen, that is true. But I'm just saying it's never safe, technically, Richard, to do.
Yeah, okay, yeah, true. You're right. Like you have got me there.
Richard Lewis. I'm just going to want to say that.
Yeah, you had me in the first half. Not going to lie. So yeah, I don't know, mate. It's a tough one. I like. You know what'd be funny to see some of the old fucked up boomers from esports on Beak. That'd be
listen. Whatever. Listen.
No, we can't even say it. No, I know. Because we know.
Person, and I'm being real. I just say this out of love. This is actually coming out of love. It's not out of dark cynicism. I'd love to have like Jason Lake or someone like that. Again, just boomer status, but in a good way.
Yeah.
I'd just love to see those people's world just completely.
He's sober now, so I wouldn't do it to him.
Oh, fair enough.
I wouldn't do it to him. But yeah, you know what? Like, I'll just say then, fuck it, Doja. He can't even speak a word of English. Beaked out of his mind, trying to tell me stories with just hand gestures and noises. I'm locked in for that. He actually said, by the way, today in an interview that he wants to keep playing until he's 40 years old. Can you imagine?
And then AdreN probably goes, "Yeah, what's funny?"
Yeah, it's normal. Anyway, so I don't know. That's the answer. Sam, you got to do one.
I gotta do one.
Yeah, you're part of the show, dickhead.
Chris Puckett, because he seems like a guy he wouldn't do it, and I feel like
True.
he's really
Just like a
lively
Boy
and
Scout,
bubbly
doesn't he?
anyway. Yeah.
Chris
Yeah.
Puckett don't
he'd
even
be going.
need cocaine.
That's what I mean. So
motherfucker.
imagine
Yeah.
him doubled up, mate, pushed to the limit.
I don't know if I'm ready for double Puckett. Jyse asks, which would be consumed first? 100 kilograms of weed by Sam, or 100? I mean, that's a mental amount.
That's 100.
That's more than lifetime.
grams,
Yeah,
mate.
exactly. Come on.
That's
Or-
not even.
Yeah,
close.
or 100 liters of whiskey by Richard. I mean, it's just not
You have
even
to make
close.
it 1,000 liters
Yeah.
minimum to eat.
Yeah,
That's
like,
too easy.
Mate, 100 liters. So to put it into context, like up until recently, I was easily polishing off probably the best part of a liter a day. Anyway, so like that's
100 days. There you go.
yeah, exactly. I can even give you a window. I've probably drank 100 liters in the last 100 days, probably.
He's fucked
Or
up
close to.
the scale on that, basically.
Yeah, well, yeah, totally. So,
And if it was even an equal scale, it'd probably be neck and neck. Because that is both of their vices.
Yeah, exactly.
so you know, there's no way.
Mate, I don't even think Spencer
Vince
sell
consuming 10 pounds of scat.
Yeah,
What about that as the third option?
yeah,
Who eats it first?
yeah. Like just unacceptable
Could be
question
anyone.
in a lot of ways. Yeah, whatever. Well, the answer's it. It is me. I'll win that one. Sam loves his green, but
Oh,
You
fucking much. Fucking hell, that's just
Yeah,
24/7 perma later on. That's just sad.
yeah, you're on a perm you're just on a perm forever. Like
Just in a fucking foundry, shoveling weed in there, inhaling it as it burns.
Sunmaid Raisins. Who would make the better casting duo?
Oh, come on. Who's this?
Who would make the better casting duo? Vince and a gorilla.
It's always Vince in it, I know.
Right, Vince and a gorilla, or Jason Moses, I assume, and that German caterpillar from A Bug's Life.
Well, you've got to give Vince a speaking gorilla at least. Make it even.
Mate,
Like, what's a
what you
famous
mean?
movie?
But if it's a speaking gorilla, it just wins.
Well, he's got to speak in German caterpillar, mate. He's got to talk in insect.
Yeah, but I think that's the point, innit? I mean, you know, it wouldn't be without... Like, if it was like a good, nice gorilla, like Coco, that gorilla that was mates with Robin Williams, right? And it could, like, do sign language and, like, you know, it got into it and beat its chest and all that
It was
stuff.
rough when it did that thing. And it was like, Robin, why you steal my jokes? And
Yeah,
he was like, Put the bitch down. Put it down.
But yeah, it was like I don't know, like there's some entertainment. I just like listen.
Here's Coco.
I like gorillas in general. I like gorillas in general. I'm a big
statement's that.
I tell you which one I'd rather watch, man. I'd rather watch Vince scared for his life for fucking a best of 3.
Well, that's the other thing.
Like, imagine it.
No, here's what. Imagine if the word that was going to trigger it into a murder frenzy was like the phrase "taken down" or you know whatever the.
So you're telling me basically,
right?
Vince is going to get captured in Harambe style. He's in a little headlock, and then obviously he's like, "Don't shoot! I remember what happened. I can't even Harambe. I think he's saying the fire. It's going to kill him." And then Vince just looking up in the dying arms of a gorilla, like one tear. He's being held by it as its fade melts away.
And the thing is, as well, like I'll just add as well, like Moses is sort of so
he can work with anyone. Mate.
Yeah, he'll just do a job like with that German caterpillar. He'll be talking to him. I don't even remember the German caterpillar from A Bug's Life.
It's the one where they all ride on, and he's got the really over the top German accent. Like, I don't even want to do it, but like the fucking...
Yeah,
he was like the chubby, long caterpillar thing. I can't really remember, but I remember the character.
I had a German teacher whose surname was Farah, and he was a very flamboyant, effeminate, homosexual
I thought he
man.
said he was going to say he was an Olympic runner. I was going to say.
The bullying that guy got was outrageous. It was outrageous.
Nothing will ever beat Prius's name though, which is also German.
I know.
That's just unbelievable.
I feel so like when all of his family, because his surname is Cunts, all of the men in his family take the women's names to get away from having to introduce yourself. Yeah, Mr. Cunts. Hi everyone, I'm Mr. Cunts.
He even did the actual classic fail of making it worse because he named himself Prius, a car that only cunts drive.
Not bad, good material. Anyway, the reality is, yeah, put that one in the book, Duncan. Put that one in when the stand-up show goes live. By the numbers, live road show. Actually been proposed by some people. Incredibly. I don't know what they think that would look like or how many people would come and watch it, but whatever. So yeah, obviously the more entertaining one is Vince and the Gorilla. I'd watch that all day. I'd just like to see Vince being around. I'd just like to see Vince. Gorilla. No, listen, I hope Vince doesn't take this the wrong way because I love him. But like, I'd just like to see Vince thrown in a cage with gorillas and just see how he handles it. No, like, assuming he doesn't die, obviously, because that would make me very sad indeed. But, like, he gets out and it's all good, but he's just shitting himself the entire time. I think that'd be brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to have a trainer there or something with a blow dart ready, just into the knock, you know.
That'd just be so much banter, like, just Vince, oh, fucking hell, man. It's baring its teeth at me, man.
I'll no longer work with gorillas again. Probably just be saying that over and over again.
Why are you a cunt? I just don't get it. Why are you going to be a cunt? It's so mental. It's so mental how much of a cunt you are. Like you always manage to raise the bar as well. Like, just no need. Anyway, yeah. So I'd rather watch Vince and the Gorilla personally. But anyway, let's just move on. Let's just muddle through this awful segment. That definitely won't be in the VOD. Hey, Rich. If you, Sam, and Thorin had one deceased figure from any timeline you would want to hang out with and converse with, who would it be, and what would be the first thing you'd want to ask them? Very tough. Could hang out with Kurt Cobain and say, it was Courtney, wasn't it? That'd be, I'd love to ask him that. Did you really kill yourself with all that heroin? Some would say too much to be able to hold a gun in your system. Did you really do it? I was a big fan of Kurt, liked him.
Mine would be like Plato or something, you know, ask about Atlantis, because that's a
yeah, but he's not gonna. He won't be able to understand you.
Yeah, but I assume we can figure that out. Surely, if I'm going back in time to speak to the dead, surely translation isn't an issue. Like, surely.
All right, Akala. All right, Akala. He's dropped an Akala on the show. Sam Carla there. No, but like, there's nothing in the rules about that. Like, so you are literally getting a guy who doesn't even speak modern Greek.
Well, I'll bring
Good luck with that.
Greek textbook with me, mate. You can write down his answer. I'll write down my questions.
Yeah, but ancient Greek and modern Greek ain't the same.
Yeah, we know how to read ancient Greek. That's how we've read all his books.
Yeah, but isn't it spoken phonetically a bit weird? Not how it's read.
Well, you could write it down. I don't know, mate. I just want the answer. Where's Atlantis? Did you make it up? Where can I find it?
All right. He did, like.
I don't know, mate. There's new evidence. Yes, he didn't. I mean, this is too much for a CS podcast.
What have I told you about watching that David IQ YouTube channel, mate?
No, none of that creepy shit, mate. Real evidence. They found in the North American ice caps evidence of a colossal, like, not world-end event, but like a doomsday event that links back to the exact time where Plato wrote that Atlantis was destroyed and fell into the sea. So,
I mean,
it could be.
It was probably one of them tiny fucking islands. And just got wrecked or something. And he just said, that's a good story, you know, and I'm popular in that, so I'll just make it up. It was like the early version of Twitter clout, probably.
Clout chaser Plato.
Yeah, exactly. Classic Plato. What about you, mate? I know you probably got a ton.
Listen, I could obviously go with like classics, like again, like fucking Nietzsche or something, but I'll just go with one for like a mixture of humor and actually also someone I would like to bring back, which is, you know, when everyone says, I wish we had X here so they tell us what we think about politics now. Most of the time, those are whack pulls. Yeah. So the one I would go with is one I told Richard this a few weeks back, because I was just watching some of it back again, the classic stuff. I'd just love to bring Bill Hicks back today and see what he would say.
Why would you do it to him? He'd be here for a couple of days. Yeah, he'd be here for a couple of days and going, can I get the pancreatic cancer again? I can't handle it. It's too much, innit? I wouldn't do it to Bill. There's some people I just, you know, respect the abyss for them. But yeah, I mean,
George
like,
Carlin be happy to be around, but it's not like you're bringing them back for the dead. You're just going to go talk to them. So with George Carlin, there's a plethora of stuff you can understand about him. You'd rather want to speak to someone where you don't have all this data about them, right, and their points of view, so you can ask them more.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Bill Hicks is a good shout. All the classics.
I actually think ours are pretty good shouts, which we pick people who died tragically early, and therefore you want to know what would happen in the rest of their life, right? We know something else about them.
Yeah. Right, next question. Hope that answers your question, Alice. Appreciate it. Watch Doge. Now that ESL have officially partnered with Gaules for a reported 3-year contract, do you think Gaules will forego an extension in 2024 when it will be the ESL's 23+1 anniversary? It's possible, mate. It's possible. Anything's possible. I've learnt with the Brazilian community, anything's possible.
Well, that's the thing, Richard. I've just realised this.
Uh-oh.
There's the move right there. You know what, ESL? We can go ahead and bring all the worlds together and prove that we are this inclusive community. Just tell Gaules during the next Pride Month he has to put all that on his stream. Problem solved.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great.
I think that's a pretty good bluff to call, right?
Yeah, exactly. Let's see.
So, because by the way, I'd love to see which side he came down on that one. Does he still want to have the stream? Does he want to have his viewers be happy? Ooh, that'll be a tough one, mate.
Yeah, will be tough. Siggoh says to Duncan, do you find it ironic that Riot partner with NEOM and ban iwdominate? Yes, indeed. He said that earlier in the show, did the whole segment. Yeah. Read your mind, and in many ways you wasted your question. Sorry about that, Siggoh. Ehco, final question, says to both of us, all of us, Sam, so you've got to do this as well.
I would say that, by the way, like,
okay.
Actually, the sad thing is, I even thought about tweeting along these lines something yesterday, right? But I actually realized, like I've told you, if I actually figure out the best banter in return, I'm a cunt, I just don't tweet it so no one can get that banter off. So I actually figured out basically what the answer would be. And even though it's a great, like, hypothetical question, it has an actual answer, and the answer is the same joke. So the question would be this, right? In a very real sense, just look at what Riot's done, the sexual harassment, then lying and saying that they're sorry, but then sabotaging the case of the sexual harassment, which already was forced into arbitration rather than ever coming out in public, all showing, by the way, not genuine, don't give a fuck. In fact, doubling down, even people who weren't involved in the sexual harassment, covering it up, doubling down, like outrageous shit. Then you add in all the other things they've done. They've held events in Saudi Arabia. They've partnered with NEOM. The joke would be, who wouldn't they partner with? Because the real question is, there isn't anyone, except the joke is, iwdominate. That's the answer. So there's a punchline answer, but as a real question, that's actually terrifying. Because at this point in time, how far would they go? That's the real thing I want to know. Yeah. Like, people, dude, I've said this before, but I think it's true. When I see now the way American media treats China, I'm not joking. If the Soviet Union was around in modern day with modern technology, they would stand for the Soviet Union. And I won't go much further, but people can guess what I could imagine some of these companies would do with the Nazis. They would just work with them, dude, straight up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, some of the corporations we're talking
basically
about
did, yeah.
Did.
Essentially, yeah.
So, yeah, if you know your history. But yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. It's like the justification mechanism is grotesque. Anyway, final question from Ehco at all of us. Sam, get your thinking cap on for this one. Would you rather have Moses' sex appeal or Anders' galaxy brain? I'll say this, like, no joke. I think Moses does have sex appeal. I want that on record.
Now that he's got, like, if you notice, he's not only lost weight, he's now lost, like, I think the most weight in a long time. He looks fucking slick now. He's looking in shape, yeah.
By the way, Rich, I just sent you another question.
Oh, okay.
Forget about it.
All right.
I think living in AdreN would be exhausting.
No joke. I actually would pick the Moses one there, unironically. Because first of all, if you know what he looked like when he was young and he had hair, he looked fucking sick. He looked like someone out of one of those fucking shit shows, like fucking the OC or One Tree Hill or some kind. Then, even when he's bald, he pulls off being bald pretty well. He's got the look down now. So, and when you say Anders' galaxy brain, mate, that's just like that. That's like that silly button they made on Google that no actual real human ever presses. Like, I'm feeling lucky. Like, that's just Anders' whole life. Like, feeling lucky, just like, he's like a fucking just.
I'm feeling.
Yeah, that's just garbage. That's not worth anything, is it?
I mean, yeah, listen, I think, the thing is, obviously, I've got the same level of sex appeal as Moses, and I've also got the same strange, disconnected thought process of Anders. So in many ways, I am the best of both worlds already. But if you could ramp either of them up, it'd be good. But I think just as a concept, I'd go with Moses' sex appeal. He's a sexy guy, obviously happily settled down and everything like, but yeah, he's never going to get to use it. Waste him anyways. But we make choices in life, you know. But yeah, it's like Anders Galaxy Brain is just basically him talking absolute shit about simulations and stuff,
which he already does anyway. So
yeah, exactly.
why do I need to have that in my own brain?
Yeah, I can just call Anders up. Anders say something mental.
Exactly.
The final question from ReykjavikonSteam, and it looks scripted, but I promise it isn't. He's just throwing it in because he's good like that. Is with the possibility that Patreon might be going under, are there alternative methods for us plebs to support the show in the event that Patreon just dies? And basically, what's been happening for those who don't know, Patreon got absolutely wrecked in a lawsuit way back when they tried to be slick and basically said if you sign up to Patreon, you can't sue us. You must go to arbitration. Now, it's the law in California where they're registered that if you decide to go into arbitration, the company you go into arbitration with has to put up the fees for the arbitration, and it can be anything up to $10,000. So Patreon tried to cleverly change the terms of it and said, no, you can sue us. Because what they realized was if they ban a content creator from their platform, all of their followers have a potential claim for tortious interference in that Patreon has interfered with the business relationship between content creator and person paying the content creator. Obviously, if a big content creator they've banned, say like a Sargon of Akkad, went to all of his followers, you can file arbitration against Patreon, they would have to pay upfront up to $10,000 per user, and they can't claim that money back. So it has the potential to absolutely bankrupt Patreon. So a little bit of Schadenfreude there, but obviously our podcast is essentially funded by Patreon. I've said it as well, guys. Like, you know me, when Patreon was censoring people, that there was some respectable bands, some bands that were absurd, Sargon one being one of them. I said to you guys then, you know, like if you want to pull out in protest, you do you. Since then, people have come back in droves. We've been up over the limit we set, which was always 2,500. That was always what we did. But I understand principles, and I also understand, like, right now, if you've got money, like, in the Patreon system, there is a chance that it could get swallowed up with Patreon just go into administration and go under. So you need to give it some thought. I don't know what the alternative methods would be. I'd never sign up to Support Star or anything stupid like that because I don't think they're very credible companies. I don't think they're very reputable. And they've been rejected by like MasterCard and banks anyway because it's all a fucking rigged game. So I don't know. I guess we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But as always, I'll think about your safety and your money first. And just say that if you're worried about it for any reason, it's perfectly acceptable to pull your money out, get rid of your Patreon account, do whatever you feel you need to do, and we'll just see what the total's like next month. And if we can bump it up, maybe Twitch subs, I can chuck Duncan a slice that way, or, you know, the sponsorship money that we're going to get to, maybe I chuck Duncan a bit of that to make it whole. We'll figure it all out, mate. So just appreciate the question. No need to worry, but that's what's going on in the world. Anyway, on the note of sponsors, it's now time to wrap up the show. Let's basically say shout out to .com. You know them, you love them. I'm sure you've been there. You can see right at the moment they're doing a deposit bonus as well if you put stuff in there. But crucially, go follow their content. It's criminal, by the way, that CS has interviews by me interviewing top players that they sponsor. Fnatic, Furia. They interview players at events and ask them crazy questions. And if you go to CS, their YouTube channel, it has something like 22,000 subs, and then you see some garbage shit like, I opened 1 million cases in a row, and they're the people who have millions of subs on CSGo. So make sure, if you want to see more content like that, just go and support it. That's all you have to do. You just have to click sub, click the little bell, and you're all living the dream. But otherwise, they're not growing at the rate they would like, and maybe they don't make that content anymore. Maybe they have to, you know, cut ties with me because they haven't had the return that they want. You know, you have to be proactive in that stuff. So go support them. The other thing, of course, new sponsor, NordVPN. If you go to nordvpn.com/RLS, you will get 70% off, essentially, the industry leader for VPNs. Like, they're everywhere. They're ubiquitous. It's a great product. And it's actually cheaper to go and get the VPN than it is to sub to the channel. Sub's $4.99. I think with 70% off, you get NordVPN for something like $3.74. So if you wanted to support me, this month at least, go and sign up to NordVPN, and you will actually be saving money instead of subbing to me. So go support them. I'm pretty sure with the numbers we've been pulling already, they're going to come back and they're going to be a long-term partner for us moving forward. That's going to keep Sam in green. That's going to keep me in money because I've had to pay 10 grand to a shipping company just to get my things. So, you know, I know you community love us and love what we do, and I know you'll always support us in what we do, but you support us by supporting our sponsors. That's how it works. So anyway, the other ones are our patrons. Our $100 patrons, Jerky's Minion, ReykjavikonSteam, Madams, AliceTheAlchemist, our $50 patrons, J-Dubs, Butt Pounder 420, Watchdog, Christian Davison, Kafal, Siggoh, RezChi, Miss Alcoholic, Madsen, Adam Edward, Flacksmith, Benakagi, Ehco, Marcus Kiumpar, Tobias Bernasconi, Carve, Daniel Magnuson, Sunmaid Raisins, and Alon. Much love to all of you. Much love to everyone who chips in. Much love to everyone who tuned in today. We'll be back next week. We'll buy the numbers. Until then, take care of yourselves.